Hi, I think we're going to get started. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing the presence of a quorum, I call the Amherst School Committee to order at 6:34 p.m. We have no audio public comments. Let me just write things down. Or not. I don't. You can take turns. 6:34 p.m. Okay, so we don't have any voicemails. There were 3 emails that I attached just recently. And so they are on the agenda. I have a brief chairs update. It's actually an update from the elementary school building committee. So maybe I'll go with subcommittee, school committee updates. I'll let Dr. Z do her update first, and then I'll jump in with the school committee member announcements and updates afterwards. Dr. Z?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have attached 2 things for this evening as a part of the ongoing K6 restructuring. I have attached the restructuring update with our most recent June update. And then I realized that I forgot to attach our readiness report. So I crafted the readiness report in a frame where it talks about the things that we've already completed. It gives somewhat of a reflective overview of, where we are at, what we started, when we came in, a lot of the initial planning of where the K6 district was supposed to be in terms of the building of the K5 school, with its max capacity was already established through the town and more so through the work of the MSBA. The idea of a 6th grade academy was actually also floated out there. And there was some initial work that had begun. It was fragmented for us as a new team because nothing was all in one place as a plan. But we were able to pull everything together. Even as we go through this process and we continue to go through it, new things come up. As you know, Deb found something about solar tubes, and that was never presented to us as a district team. Key things, we've completed our redistricting map and boundary approvals. The school committee voted on this, I believe, in November, December. Our leadership assignments were completed. Staffing placements have been assigned. There are some individuals who have appealed their staffing, and we're going through those processes right now. The contractual processes, our academic programming, the academy design, our budget. Hopefully this evening we'll finalize that part of the process. Our schools have been named. Open houses have happened for Chestnut Street. We're planning the transition activities for Amethyst Brook, and there's been a lot of communications around there. Both schools in their own right have held their honoring of Wildwood as well as honoring of Fort River. There's various activities that's been happening. Last week, Fort River had their 5th and 6th grade step up, as well as Cracker Farm. And this week, Wildwood has their 5th and 6th grade step up programs. I talked about staffing. In terms of readiness, my biggest concern is what remains in terms of the unknowns, but also the things that we do know. Our traffic patterns, our parking consideration, finalizing and making sure after school coordination is in place at all of our buildings. I believe Marta has been in conversation with our providers. They've been guaranteeing support. So we plan for that to continue. We have our summer programming starting next week. And then we have summer maintenance, because one of the key things the team all agreed on is, although we have a new building, we want to make sure that all of our sites get equal love, because all of our children are valued for us. So in terms of the unknowns, there's a lot of things that we don't know. How are they going to transition and adjust? Building operations and utilization. It's a new building. There's some new technology. I had a worry today about the installation of the elevator, but I'm not. There's some other things that are concerning in terms of solar, maintenance of the building, enrollment and programming needs. We're a public school district. We're consistently accepting students that move into our district and transition into our district. How we're going to have our traffic flow and what that's going to look like in terms of accepting and dismissing students. So we are prepared for addressing the unknown by continuing the process that we've had. Our regular leadership team meetings, ongoing communication with students and families, monitoring of transportation, attendance, behavioral and operational data, and collaboration with our partners. So the readiness report is there. And our update for K6 restructuring is also attached, and you'll see our kitchen equipment is being installed. Our corkine material was delivered. Our media center is nearly complete. Chestnut Street Academy, our floor plan has been attached, and our community building. So that's my update for this week.
Sarah.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I want to recognize that getting these two schools ready for the students who will be there in a couple months has been a heroic effort. So I want to thank you and everyone involved. I know that it's not perfect for everyone, but we don't live in a perfect world. And I think we're well positioned to have a really good year at both at Amethyst Brook and Crocker Farm and Chestnut Street. But that said, yes, there will be unexpected problems or issues that arise and will need to be dealt with. But I'm feeling really good about where we are. Two questions regarding the traffic, which may be horrendous. Have you been coordinating with the Amherst Police to provide some, traffic enforcement or police to guide buses or cars in and out during arrival and dismissal? If not, I would encourage that.
So I want to say for your comment in the beginning, I can't say thank you enough to have, outside of saying thank you, that I have a dynamic team. From the teachers in the classroom who came to listening sessions and shared, to staff members and the directors and the principals that work each and every day. Like, this feat is not a one-person feat. This is actually the successes of a united team. And so I'm very grateful to everyone in this support. In saying that, Dr. Guevara was actually assigned to coordinate with Amherst PD, and she's been in contact with Chief Ting around the traffic and the supports at the start of the school year. Dr. Marta, you want to?
Yes. So yes, we're very excited. We're lucky because we have a great partnership with our APD, and Chief Ting has always been very responsive. So I approached it on behalf of all of us, and he immediately took it to heart. And he has assembled a group of people who can support this, and we will be having a meeting soon. It hasn't been scheduled, but he has all the people and we're coordinating, and we're working together, and we're excited because, again, everybody's showing up for this, and our thanks to Chief Ting for doing this for us.
Thank you. And I have a second question, if I may. I'm a bit anxious about the lease for Chestnut Street Academy, and I don't know if I should be or not, because I'm wondering if it's important that that be settled by July 1st, because I know, well, that's the new fiscal year and there's going to be moving into classrooms and this, that, and the other. So if you can, I know negotiations may still be underway. If there's anything you can say about, or maybe Deb can, about the urgency of getting this done.
I
Thank you.
can say that last week, today's Monday, so Tuesday, so last week we had a meeting, to discuss and finalize the negotiations. I believe it's in a final stage. We came to an agreement between the town and the regional, district as appointed. So I believe it's out for signatures. Once it's signed, then I'll sign.
That's wonderful. I can relax now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to open public comment because apparently there was a hand raised that we didn't recognize. So, is the hand up now?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Sorry about that. Andrea, you're free to talk.
Oh.
Andrea, sorry.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Sure. Can you hear me
That's
now?
great. Yep.
That's better. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And sorry, I am on my partner's computer. My name is Ellen Gadara, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. We want to express our enthusiastic support for the district's proposed implementation of collaborative and proactive solutions, also known as collaborative problem solving or CPS, during professional development scheduled for all teachers, staff, and administrators this summer and fall. We greatly appreciate the school committee and superintendent's efforts to ensure that CPS will be part of our district's staff training. We also want to reiterate the need to replace safety care with UKIRU, an equivalent de-escalation and physical behavior management program. While safety care is listed in our current policy, the language in our policy also allows for an equivalent program. DESE guidance to reduce and eliminate restraint and seclusion has been in place since the 2020-21 school year, but experience has demonstrated that safety care is ineffective at reducing restraint and seclusion in our district. Our policies should codify systems that protect student dignity and safety and not outdated modalities. To help support our administrators in implementing meaningful change related to neuroaffirming practices, we've carefully curated and provided a list of recommended resources to the superintendent and the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. These resources include books, research articles, suggested trainers, podcasts, and can help and guide and inform upcoming PD related to neurodiversity and complementing the CPS and UKIRU trainings that are focused on reducing restraint and seclusion. We've also provided a functional definition of what neuroaffirming looks like in a school setting to help ensure we have a shared understanding. And this includes a list of outdated language to avoid, handouts with actionable tips, resource designed for paraeducator training, and we will email this to you all as well. We also speak tonight regarding the design and use of the reflection rooms in our new Amethyst Brook Elementary School. CPAC families provided several evidence-based design suggestions aimed at making these reflection spaces sensory-friendly and truly calming for students experiencing emotional or behavioral dysregulation. Several of our recommendations were not integrated into the final plans, and as we approach the opening of the new school this fall, it remains unclear to us and the broader community as to what these rooms will really look like. So as the final touches are put on the new building in preparation for students' arrival, we ask, will the reflection rooms look and feel like the institutional padded cells of the blue rooms, the spaces that have induced trauma instead of de-escalation in our students? Or will they be genuinely calming, grounding, and therapeutic spaces that any one of us would voluntarily choose to take a break inside and re-regulate? Finally, as we navigate the new regulation coming into effect this August related to timeout, restraint, and seclusion, we strongly urge the school committee and district administrators not to let the pursuit of legal compliance exclude the pursuit of actual student well-being. Seeking legal counsel is a necessary administrative step, but it cannot be the only lens through which we design policy and spaces for children. We urge the district to seek out and prioritize input from child-centered experts on neurodiversity, including neuroaffirming, occupational therapists, speech-language pathologists, child psychologists. These professionals possess the clinical experience Required to design policy and physical spaces that support the safety and sensory needs of dysregulated students. We deeply appreciate your dedication, energy, and enthusiasm for guiding our district towards a genuinely neuro-affirming approach. We look forward to our continued collaboration to make our schools safe and supportive and an environment where everyone can thrive. And I know I'm over time, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. So moving on to school committee member announcements or updates. Does anybody have anything? The elementary school building committee, I'm the Amherst committee representative on that, met on Friday. The building is on track for opening as expected, as Dr. Z mentioned in a lot of her update. There's a lot of progress in terms of getting the interior of the building furnished. There is a hiccup, not about the opening of the building, and it's not about getting the PV array up. It's about getting Eversource to connect them. So we completed and applied for whatever it was you applied for in January. There's a new standard issued by Eversource this past May. And so there's been a process in which Eversource and our OPM have been engaged in. Our town manager has spoken to both Senator Comerford and Rep. Dom, and they are working, I think, last night, Kathy Shane, the chair of the ESBC, described it as a full court press in terms of getting that paperwork straightened out so we can use our solar array. The consequences of not being able to bring it online for an indeterminate amount of time are needing to pay for our electricity and heating off the grid. I didn't get the details as to what would happen if, because I don't think we're really going there yet. We're going in, make it work, Eversource. Sarah?
Expect you don't have an answer, and perhaps other people at council said this, but in my experience, generally when you apply for something, you're held to the rules that were in effect at the time, not rules that come into effect 4 months after you filed your paperwork. So I
Yes,
just wonder.
that was expressed in the meeting. I can't remember who said it, but there were eyebrows raised for the same reason. There's a small incentive that Eversource has. And the question is to whether or not we would miss the qualification period for that. It's about $10,000, I think they said. And the same answer was raised. If you're the one delaying it, how could you? But again, these people people are on it, and we believe that work will be done. So that's all I have as an update. Anybody else? Okay, so we have a bucket load of minutes. Thank you very much to Sarah and Andrew for helping get that moving.
Thank you.
Well, it was a joint effort, and I got a bit of a nudge, and I needed it. So there's one, Andrew finished the 19th. I wanted to attach the documents, the links to the documents, so it's not up yet. And then, so there's a couple, of May. So the only ones that are outstanding are the 19th of May, and there's a couple links to update, and then I'll put that, I guess I will email it to folks because we won't have it ahead of the next meeting. And then there'll be one more coming through, and I think Andrew said he'd be willing to get that out. So it'll be good to have all that as we enter the superintendent evaluation stage. Yeah, Sarah?
Just, we've had so many meetings, but I made a list of what I think we should have minutes about and not even including joint meetings with other committees, but it's in case you don't have these on your list, or we could discuss, April 29th.
That was postponed. That was a meeting that I didn't get
Oh,
posted, so that
right.
became the meeting that became the 7th and the
That-
19th.
Not, right, so the 7th, we don't have.
That's the
7th.
one that I was working on.
You are working, and the
But
19th.
Andrew's gonna take
Got
it
it.
over, and the
Thank you.
19th just needs a couple of links. And yes, there are the joint meetings, which are, there's a January one. There could be a January, February, and April one. But I think January is done. I think it's, I don't know, because, yeah. So if you have any edits to the minutes, please send them to me. If you haven't had a chance to review them, but we do have our draft minutes. Does anybody want to move to approve any of? Go ahead, sir.
But I submitted edits, so
Oh,
and I
you
don't
did?
see them reflected, so,
Did you you sent them to me?
well, okay, about January 20th, it was a comment, really. It's like 8 of the 10 pages seem to be a transcript, which is not really helpful. It's very long, and it's,
January 20th.
yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm confused as to why I didn't get that communication. Did you email it to me?
Yes, mhm.
Okay.
So maybe we could pull that one.
Okay,
And
so we'll
then,
hold off, hang on. Minutes. Okay, so I will check and see if that was a transcript. Oh, I know what happened with that. So that was one Laura Jane worked on, and then I worked on it also. So it became a kind of an amalgam of two different styles.
right, I would just point out that the open meeting law guide suggests that minutes should be summary of the discussion, that, a transcript is not super helpful to the public, maybe because that takes so long to read. You just need to know the gist of what was discussed and then the details of any motions or votes taken. So that's why you read and read and read pages. So that's my comment about January 20th. And then I have one about March 17th, but we'll get there in
Okay.
time.
Laura Jane?
Yeah, sorry, that was my first time trying to do minutes, and I literally watched the meeting and wrote down every word that everyone said. So that was a
Painful.
labor of love for this committee, and you're welcome.
Yeah, well, you probably didn't get the best guidance, like, can you do this? Sure. Okay, so maybe you up to taking a pass at that one too?
The last one, 120.
120, that's mostly, I can do it. I just, I'm chugging through one of them. I just take a lot longer than you do, and I.
No, you got things to do. It's good.
Eh,
No, I can
thank-
take it. I can take it.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. 5/7, 120, and 5/19 pending. Okay, Sarah, what do you have on the March 31st?
March 17th.
March 17th.
Okay, page 8. Well, I emailed this to you, so
Okay.
I mean, we could just pull this, or it's relatively short. So bottom third says, oh, there it is. Oh, page 9, I'm sorry. So about halfway down says Sarah cautioned that between collective bargaining agreements. See that? All right. It makes no sense. it doesn't follow the previous paragraph at all where Bridget made an observation. And mine has nothing to do with that. So I would add, either insert something to the effect that Laura Jane had suggested cutting compensation, cutting staff compensation or something. So
Okay.
that is what my remark was
Okay,
responding to.
so what page was that?
Page 9.
And I just checked my email and I'm not finding it. So if you could just double check and I'll check my spam, but I got the one for you on 331, so I don't know why I wouldn't have gotten the others. About 331, not on 331. Okay, so we'll pull 317 to modify. Is it sufficient to say that based on the resolving of that one sentence, or should we just
Sure,
Wait,
if you
hold
want
on.
to, record here the language, or you could just add, preface it, my remark by, in response to a suggestion by Laura Jane,
in response to a suggestion?
that we reduce staff compensation.
Under
That's all.
we reduce staff compensation, staff compensation. Da, da, da. Okay,
Yes.
I don't know how much it's relevant. On page 4 of the same minutes, Susan Wells is named Susan Wallace,
Wells, okay,
but her real name is Wells.
WELLS spelling, okay.
And January 5th, Bridget is not listed as being present, but then she's part of the minutes the whole way through.
January 5th. Add Bridget. Let's leave these as draft. I guess that's a long time to leave them as draft.
Sorry, which one was Laura Jane just commenting on?
The same one, the March,
Well,
no,
then-
the May, January 5th.
Well, unless not everyone has had a chance to look, we could pass January 5th, February 24th, March 31st, March 24th, and March 31st.
Would you like to make a motion?
I move to accept. I need
Second,
to list them again.
Yes, please.
All right, I move to accept the minutes of January 5th.
As amended,
They weren't amended.
add Bridget.
Oh, I thought you just said it was the same. Okay.
I did, and then I corrected myself.
All right, January 5th as amended. February 24th. March 24th
March 20,
and March 31st.
March 31st. Sarah moved. Discussion.
Just noticed on I just noticed on 324 that Jen Ortiz and a couple other last names are missing in the transcript. If
Yeah,
that wasn't already mentioned.
It
So
was
that would
not.
be as amended.
324,
If that's a friendly amendment, I accept. Yes, I noticed that.
add last names. I can explain that one too, but it's not necessary. Okay, so the amendment to add last names to March 24th is made and accepted. And do we have a second for those 4 sets of minutes?
second,
Andrew seconded, all in favor? Passes, and then we have some more pending meetings. It's possible we make sense just to do a short remote meeting to finish it up for the year, but we'll deal with that as it comes along.
That would be great. It could just be a virtual meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have warrants. Sarah will be happy to know that I will not move to accept them because it's a report and we just notice them and move on. We finally got that. There's a gift. You want to read it, please, Sarah?
Sure. I move that we accept the following gifts from Martha Olver, check 997275, to support Crocker Farm at the principal's discretion in the amount of $10. And from ARPS PGO, doing business as Crocker Farm PGO, number 713, a gift for the Crocker Farm playground upgrade in honor of Derek Shea's retirement in the amount of $5,000 for a total of $5,010.
Second.
Second by Andrew. Discussion? All in favor? Passes. Thank you very much to Martha Over and the ARPS PG, the Crocker Farm PGO via ARPS for their generous donations. And thinking of our schools when they think about places to donate. Our next order of business is the budget. So there's Shannon. Would you like to tell us what's in our packet?
Yes. So on the first page, it is the budget of the 3.85% that was initially presented with the cost centers laid out. On the second page, it's the adjustments, additions, and reductions that was previously presented. On the third page, at the top, it has these are the reductions listed here that could be restored given the additional funding that we're receiving. I would just like to know, the first line says regular education. It should say regular instruction. That's just a typo in the first cost center one. And then it was also requested to have a list of our vacancies, so that was provided. And a suggested scenario with proposed motion language and what that would look like if some of these were restored. But I guess we'll be discussing that now. So.
Okay, so we have, yes, Sarah.
Would someone please summarize council's action last night, since the public may not be aware, and that's the reason we have this agenda.
So I say this not having watched the meeting, so.
I was there.
I watched the meeting.
You were
Oh,
watching.
good, good. But what my understanding is that, that the budget that Finance Committee approved was the one that was passed, and that they gave $120,000 to support, they said explicitly to support the interventionist lines. And that together with the 69,000 that was moved from the regional budget to the Amherst budget, that creates a scenario where we have the 189,000 that would lead to being able to restore the interventionists. The specials positions that had been in our budget were not restored.
Sarah.
Yeah, if I could just add a couple things. Yeah, the Finance Committee recommended adding $120,000 to what the town manager had proposed, which was a different number than what we had suggested. I mean, it was a new number. So, but because of other changes, it is a net of 189,371 compared to this 3.85% budget. Also, I gather that while there was lots of discussion in the Finance Committee and in public comment about all the reasons the schools needed this money, whether it was for specials instruction or intervention services. Counselors were very, very clearly stated that they knew they could not direct us what to do with it. They heard what everyone had to say, they heard what we had to say, and, they certainly, anyway, they know that they cannot tell us how to spend money.
I would say that was used as an argument against providing the extra funding by the counselors who brought it up. The counselors in support of it pointed out that they can't tell us what to do about any of the money, that's really a conversation internally, and seemed to think that was appropriate. Now, I usually take a lead on the budget. One of the things that I think bears discussion, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, would it be helpful to bring up the 3.85% budget, the list of adjustments and additions and reductions? 'Cause
It's
that's
there, it's
essentially what-
attached.
Yeah, on the
So can we
screen-
just, share it on the screen maybe for
Yeah.
the public? Is that possible? So they'll know what we're talking about?
Sure. And I guess, Andrew, can you do that? It's page 2 of the memo from Shannon in the packet. Yeah. So yeah, the 229,409,219 was the target.
And so we're deciding which of these reductions amounting, or how to put 100 and whatever it was, 189,000 to change.
One of the another point of contention that arose during the discussions of the budget was a conversation that had during the budget hearing, the budget meeting that Finance Committee had for the schools. There's a fair amount of time spent on the Early Childhood Education Center, but there were also discussions about purview, as there often are in all public bodies. And so I'd like to make a point of, I reached out to our school attorney to find out about purview, because it's been a bit of a process as I've sat on the committee. And so the example he gave actually was quite interesting. And he said, for example, whether to have 8 fourth grade teachers and 2 third grade teachers, or whether to have 4 of each, is entirely within the purview of the school committee. They have the legal authority to determine the number of staffing for each category, but of course, not who those teachers would be. So we would, if we were to do that, for instance, we would identify a cost center corresponding to those 2 groups, and those would be what we vote. Or we could vote the whole and then move to reallocate the money. I think Bridget has a little bit more clarity on this part than I do.
Well, he had 2 different approaches, I think, but one was just to put in one motion the pieces that you were adding, and then where you recommended they come from, because in the end, we have to balance our budget, right, with this amount that we've been given. Oh, and the other, I think the suggestion was either to make 2 separate motions, to combine them, if you're adding things back to within the motion balance amount, or to do them separately. And so I drew some draft motions to like sort of lead or open the discussion. And I would probably start with, I move to use the 189 $100,000 allocated by the Amherst Town Council to reinstate the intervention teacher positions. That would be my first motion. I think it's simpler. Let's have that discussion and then I could put the second one forward. Does that make sense? And the second one, just as a preview, is in relation to the question of the special teachers. So that's.
So have you made one motion or
Yeah,
two
just one.
motions?
Just one. I'm gonna say.
I will second that.
I move to, I wasn't typing, I was listening, sorry.
Yeah. To use the additional 189,000 allocated by the Amherst Town Council to reinstate the intervention teacher positions.
Friendly amendment? Can we use every dollar or did you have,
Oh, no, if you've got the exact.
yeah, 371, 189,
One,
371. Or you could say approximately.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
yes, Dr. Z.
One, do you have that in writing from legal counsel? Because that doesn't align with some of the guidance that I've been given, especially with the fact that that seems like a day-to-day feature. And two, when you're making this motion to use all of that in that realm, you need to take into account that these staff members come with fringe benefits. So are you then off balancing? Or is that, is there an expectation for us to determine that and then come back and ask again? Because
The
I just want to be
numbers-
clear.
Then those are the numbers that came from Shannon's budget.
But I think we'll now discuss, and I have something to say maybe on that point, Dr.
I, and to answer your question, Dr. Z, I do have an email from our attorney. And so I certainly am happy to send that to you.
Please do.
Sarah,
So now we can discuss the motion?
yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So even though I seconded it, I get maybe this is another friendly, hopefully, amendment. I would say to put it towards intervention services and not positions, because we don't know necessarily now how many positions will be needed or what, what exactly will be the best way to spend that money on. It's the services that the kids need. I don't know that it's a particular number of staff or part-time, 1.2 or whatever. And and if this includes, I don't want to be directing the administration to rehire math coaches if we do not need math coaches. So I would rather the motion said that we put this towards intervention services.
My question is what distinction you're making? Interventionists, you're considering a category of to include coaches, but intervention services you are not?
Right, because the math coaches, they are coaching teachers. But the way this reduction has been presented is reading and math interventionists and coaches. So I don't want to restore or say we want coaches if we don't need them. If they have served their purpose, because now we've had 5 years or 4 years of iReady and everybody's coached. I think administrators made that clear. So I would just.
I understand the ambiguity of the reduction sheet. I'm trying to refine my understanding of your suggested amendment to the motion. What is the?
I think because I don't know the range of possible interventions that could be offered. It might be more people, it might be some equipment or materials. I have no idea, but I would like the administration to have the freedom or the flexibility to respond to student needs in whatever way is best for them. So I would it's the intervention I care about. Maybe will end up being a distinction without a difference. I don't know, but that's
Okay.
my point.
Sarah, Bridget.
I would say that, oh, sorry, there goes my mic thing again. I would say that the language change you make isn't one I'd be comfortable with, but um, that we could just say for intervention teacher positions. That's could be coach or direct interventionist, but I'm not really interested in like not having human beings to work with because the big problem that we saw raised were in the ratios. So I understand the point you're making about the coach, but I think that by saying for, like taking out the word reinstate necessarily and just saying for the intervention teacher positions, that could get us there. What do you think?
That, I'm fine with that.
I'm sorry, I was forwarding the email.
I said I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So Bridget may have to redo the language or say where we're at the moment.
I move to you. Sorry, y'all, long day already. I move to use the additional 371 allocated by the Amherst Town Council for intervention teaching positions. Is that okay? Yeah.
Second.
We already had a second. That was a friendly amendment. Yeah, thank you. So I've had it.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have discussion of the motion? Dr. Z, would you like to share your thoughts about the motion?
I think this is a level of micromanagement that I've never seen from a school committee. I think that putting it, your first motion in the budgets were to put it in the correct cost centers. That's how the original budget was voted. I feel that if you place it in the appropriate cost center, you allow the district to do what needs to be executed and principals to identify needs for their building. You allow for staff to determine, based on student needs, who should be standing in front of children and who should be supporting children and where those positions should be. For me, the school committee who does not have the day-to-day interactions or even looking at how our student population changes, our student needs change, enrollments change, is making a decision that can have a critical impact to educating children. And that's a decision that you will have to live with as a school committee. And you're expecting the administration to execute. And so I'm not in agreement with how you're doing it. But as long as it doesn't fall on this administration, when something doesn't work in regards of supporting children, that's all I would like to say.
Thank you. Sarah?
I wonder then, because Dr. Z is right, that we do vote cost centers. We don't vote positions, whether we can amend the motion to direct this extra money into regular instruction for this purpose.
Laura Jim?
I'm trying to understand, Deb. I thought you just said that we can decide. Did I misunderstand? But it sounded like the lawyer said we are allowed to say where we want the money to go.
The attorney was very clear that it is within our purview as the school committee to make those directions as we chose. It seems to me, and I for whatever reason, I don't hear Dr. Z very clearly in the town room, that part of the issue is it was not the original cost centers that we voted. But I do believe there is a concern about school committee understanding how we are directing our funds and the responsibility and making sure that those funds are directed in the way that we intend. And I will just say that in this budget process that was not very clean over the course of the last 3 months, it became clear to me that we didn't have 100% clarity on the original budget that was put forward on March 17th in this room in the budget hearing. I feel like there was some recognition that I think Bridget said it in public comment that the budget that was put forward to meet the guidance and not necessarily the need, and that it was done very thoughtfully. And then over the course of 3 months, there was a fair amount of interaction amongst the community, and including staff members who served in these positions about caseloads and information flow and interest in maintaining the level of services that exist currently, which is why I think Sarah's point regarding the instructional coaches is well taken, that really, that if the administrators feel like the coaching is not necessary, that's a very different statement than changing the course load of the teachers, the caseloads of the teachers who are in those positions. And I feel like as a committee, when we voted above guidance, that was why, that we were very clear that that was the highest level of priority for us. There's a lot of discussion around specials as well. And that was also a huge concern. I spoke in public at town council last night, and I did speak to the change in the culture that and Allison Estes was very clear that this is a very different model in our schools than we have become accustomed to. And she said very clearly that's what happens when the town requires a certain level of budget growth over years. She said 3%, but she really meant the 3.5 and then the 3.85. So I feel like it is well within our responsibility to our community, to our staff, to listen to what seemed like a minimal, bare bones approach. And I think it was not what we had all hoped for the restoration of the specials, or when I say all, I mean me. But I do appreciate the fact that town council, for the first time that I'm aware of, voted above guidance from the town manager and supported that vote 11-1 as recognition of the value that they place in the intervention services and where we are as a community and our priorities and our values. And I think we all came together. And I don't think that this speaks against what the administration came forward with. I think it just shows how very important it is. And that's why we voted 5-0 to support this budget at the 5.87 level for those two reasons. Sarah?
I think I made a friendly amendment, but maybe I didn't. I would offer a friendly amendment that we specify that this money be added to regular instruction. That is a cost center. We need to vote on cost centers.
You did make that friendly amendment.
okay.
I do not believe the original maker of the motion accepted it.
Yeah, no, on this specifically, I was going to raise my hand on this specific issue particularly because while we vote, can you hear me? Is my mic okay? While we vote on cost centers generally, and that gives the superintendent and her staff the flexibility throughout the school year to move things where they need to and to adjust in real time to, a busload of students who show up on UMass campus in September or however it happens, right? So yes, that's our general process. However, both historically, we have a long-standing tradition in this town of looking at the line items and voting on line items specifically when it comes to our attention that a position, is something that was very valuable to the community. If we did not do that, then I would argue that sitting here for hours and hours of budget hearings would simply be a waste of our time. I'm not quite done, but when I get there, so Oh, so I don't want to just be a rubber stamp. Like I don't sit here 3 nights a week with all you lovely people to rubber stamp things. I'm trying to represent the community and hear their feedback. So what happened in this particular instance is, and reading the minutes was very enlightening to me, is that in 3 different meetings, I asked for specific clarification about the number of interventionists and also the caseloads. And the information was not accurate to what it actually was. And later, members of the community, my constituents, came forward to me and gave me like the exact people, their exact titles, the exact number of hours, the exact caseloads, et cetera. And we learned things that weren't presented to us quite right. And there were great explanations for why and how that could happen. And we're all humans, so nothing against mistakes. But I just want to say that I would not accept the friendly amendment for those reasons.
Can
Thank you.
I wonder if I was misunderstood though.
Give me a sec. I wanted to let other people weigh in. Okay, is it like?
Well, yes, I
we-
wasn't trying to make the motion vaguer. I was adding language, not substituting language. So add it to the call center for the purpose of the specialist.
And are we sure that that goes
I'm
under
sorry.
regular instruction?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Are we sure that's the regular instruction cost center?
Well, the administration can always come and ask us to shift. I mean, they do that if it's needed in other programs or whatever.
So, go ahead, Laura Jane.
I think a way around this complexity might be to say a friendly amendment would be to move to spend the 100 to bring the 189.
371.
I'm looking at Sarah every time. Into whatever cost center would fund the interventionists.
So I think when it comes to the discussion that I have listened to both during finance committee meetings and in town council, the concern expressed was that the counselors heard the same information we did, came to the same conclusions of the essential, vital importance that these people play in the schools, and felt and did something very unusual for them, almost unanimously, in support of this, with much concern expressed that, especially given the conversations about purview, that it not be used in the manner in which it was intended, recognizing, of course, that that was not something that they could do. And so I think it is important to me, out of recognition of this conflict and this need, to really very clearly send a signal to town council that we heard them, that we appreciate, and that we are actually dictating, as we believe, and the law and our attorney says, what these positions are being used for, and not to go into a larger category. So I understand it's unorthodox. There's been nothing orthodox about this process. And we're going to work harder, I hope, in the future on smoothing out the information flow and the accuracy and the timing of the questions, so that all of these things get worked out way in advance, so that we really have a good, clearer, cleaner process for the next fiscal year.
I'd
Right,
like to
Jane.
call the vote.
So we vote on that. It's simple majority, no discussion. I don't
Can
know
you
if it's
repeat the motion? please?
to call the question.
Call.
I don't know if we do roll call or not. Do you, Sarah? For calling the question? Okay, everybody in favor of calling the question? For, against, one? Opposed or abstain? Okay, So we call the question. We go immediately to a vote. It does not need to be a roll call vote, I realized last time, because we're all in person. So all in favor? It passes unanimously.
Now I would like to offer a motion.
Okay, give me a sec to write things down, because I
If
will.
you want, Deb, I'm in a document I can write.
Oh, that'd be great. So, calling the question, Laura Jane, I'll just write it down. So, question, and who seconded it? Or do we? I think I thought I did. Okay. Laura Jane, Deb second, 4-1, Sarah Marshall. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay.
Sarah.
Yes,
Sarah.
so I want to, I move that we put this 189,371 for interventionists into the special education cost center. Regular, regular instruction cost center. Thank you for that puzzle look. I would like someone to second it so I can speak to it and then you can vote it
I
down.
will second it.
Thank you. We need to vote about a budget that has every dollar into a cost center. That's our job. Doing so doesn't undo the motion we just passed.
Sarah, I agree with you, but the reason that I didn't put it in cost centers, besides that I wrote the motions on my lunch, was that I just wasn't sure, because there's that other cost center called supports. And so I know that these are that RTI or this type of service is a regular education service, but it may be in the category of other supports, so.
And the administration can come to us, as Shannon has done, to ask to move some money between cost centers. That if they say we need, we want to,
I think Shannon's here.
yeah, okay, Shannon could speak to that. If it's in the wrong category, the administration would like to put it in other services or programs. Is that something we can do?
Yes.
It is something you can do, as well as, like I said previously, which I think was ignored, that you're restoring positions without their benefits.
Say that again, please, that you're.
You are restoring positions without their benefits. So ideally, what we put forth is when we presented restoration, we took into account that employees come with benefits, and salary is in one portion and benefits are in another. So that is why we suggested the restoration, and the breakdown the way we did.
So it seems to me that the restoration that you suggested was not specific to the interventionists. It was a more general.
No, I'm not speaking to what it was specific to. What I'm speaking to is, as you are making these financial and fiscal decisions, that you need to make sure that whatever you're putting them in and moving them towards, you take into account that the positions also come with fringe benefits, health insurance. So please note that that has to be restored as well.
Okay, my understanding of how this works is as placeholders, the fringe benefits for professional positions is used as 7,500 per individual. Is that correct, Shannon? I think.
Correct.
Okay, so this would be 2.5 of those positions.
Are you asking her to do the math on the spot, Deb?
I'm asking her to confirm that it's 2.5 positions.
Yes, the intervention is 2, the coaches is 0.5.
So in the budget reduction sheet, it says 182,000 there. I'm not sure why we get 189 from town council, but that's the number in your budget reduction sheet.
I think
was
what it
wondering
might be is that um one has the estimated salary and one might have included an actual salary closer, because normally we use 70 as the standard, but we know that teachers, fluctuate depending on their position. That's what I think that discrepancy is.
Thanks. So I don't see the problem then, because those are Shannon's numbers.
I think the idea is that restoring the position into the general education payroll is different than restoring the position plus the benefits. Those go into two different cost centers.
Correct.
So where was that money then accounted for in the budget book?
Under the health insurance reduction in fringe proportional to staffing, the $60,000.
Correct.
Just want to point out, I think there's a motion on the floor, but I don't know. And
Oh.
it was seconded, so,
It was seconded and
but I'm not sure we're talking about it. Are
you're
we?
right. Okay. So
You would have to amend your motion because your motion only puts the funding in one cost center.
I understand.
Restoration of possessions would require two cost centers, the second being health insurance.
So that's the discussion around the motion, that it would have to, restoring the interventionist could be what we use the money for, but that would need to be divided amongst the general education payroll and the benefits.
Right, so that's not,
Cost.
so therefore, we cannot pass a budget that is accurate to the dollar, because we don't know how to allocate the 189,371 appropriately.
Well,
So one thing we could do is, I don't know, have a very quick meeting, pro forma, to pass a budget if the administration can submit us one that appropriately allocates the funds.
I don't see the difference between using placeholders to pass our budget and allocate them amongst cost centers and using the budget that was presented to us that did the same thing. The health insurance reduction is $60,000 for a net of 7.05 FTEs, with there being 0.17 budget adjustments, 7.05. I said that the net, but 9.32 adds and 16.2 subtractions. So it seems to me that we would just adjust the same way using the placeholder of 7,500, just like the other categories. I don't see
Then
why
you want to take a break and run the calculation so we
I
can come
did.
back with,
18,750.
so take that away from the 189. So the 171 or so is for the payroll and 18 something is for.
Well, we did the motion, we passed it. Your motion is being discussed. So we can vote it yes or no, and then go back to considering what to do about the 189 set 371.
Is it possible that as an administration team that does this work, we can allow Shannon to possibly offer some input?
Of course.
And I think Laura Jane had her hand up.
I still am having trouble hearing you, Dr. Z. Could you move closer to your mic?
I said, I think two things. I think we should give Shannon an opportunity to offer input, and Laura Jane had her hand up like 6 times.
And Laura Jane, what?
had her hand up 6 times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I think Shannon may have a quicker solution instead of us going back and forth.
Laura
Shannon?
Jane, what would you like to say? Shannon, what would you like to,
Okay.
can you illuminate this conversation,
Yep,
please?
so just an idea, if we're restoring the interventions, that's in regular instruction, so we add 140 to regular instruction, then we add 15,000 to health insurance, that gets us to a total of 154. Then there's a remaining 35,371 that you could add partially to support services and partially to health insurance as an idea. And I can give you those numbers. And then once we have those numbers, we go back up to the 3.85% budget, how much we're going to add to each. We total it up, and then you'll be able to read the motion by bucket.
How does that sound, Sarah?
So 140 representing 2 positions, 2 full-time. Okay, with this $35,000, 35 left over, you're suggesting we just decide how much to put into the 2 buckets? And I already forgot what the buckets.
Support services and health insurance.
Why more into health insurance than the 15 you already specified?
If we're restoring that some of the coach, and then they'll have some fringe benefits. We wouldn't have to do the full 7,500, but a portion.
I didn't follow that at all. If it's $7,500 of health insurance per position, that $15,000 covers the 2.
Right, but
positions.
then you're
Why
restoring
is
a
more needed in that?
part-time. You're restoring a part-time portion, and that portion comes with benefits as well. It may not be the full, but it comes with a portion of benefits as well that we have to account from out of the remaining balance.
So maybe 5,000 out of the 35,000 for health insurance?
I think Shannon's doing some markup, but maybe around that much, yes.
We're still discussing your motion, which is to put the full amount into general education.
True. I was hoping we could have information so I could amend it, but if you would rather, I just withdraw it and we'll just wait. And
That works for me too.
if Shannon could wave when she's ready.
She's doing it.
Yeah. No, 1 second. So then we would have 140,000 to regular instruction, support services of 29,371, and health insurance 20,000. The 7,500 times 2 plus 5,000.
20,000 to, what was the last one, the health insurance for the support service?
20,000 health insurance, 29,371 support services, and regular instruction 140.
I still missed it. I'm sorry.
No, it's
the health
140,
insurance?
140.
140, I got 29,351 for the support services, and then the last category, health insurance.
20, yeah. So regular instruction 140,000, support services 29,371,
70.
and then health insurance 20,000.
So that would be how we modified your motion, should you choose to.
I do choose to. I would like to amend my motion so to run that we increase regular instruction by $140,000, health insurance by $20,000, and support services by $29,371. For a total of $189,371.
Okay. I seconded it, so I accept the amendment. It's not a friendly amendment because you amended it yourself.
Oh, make it friendly.
Okay. I accept the friendly amendment. Is there more discussion? Everybody in favor?
Oh, sorry.
What, a little bit more discussion?
Sorry, I did have a question, which is, I'm not sure why the health insurance is 60,000 for $1 million of positions, but for positions totally in 182, it's 20,000. Like the math doesn't, I'm
Ye-
not clear on that math.
So
Shannon, explain, you go ahead.
oh, the 60,000 originally, there are so you see how we have additions to the budget of split employees. So it wasn't just taking the reduction of employees and figuring out how much health insurance we would remove. It was taking a net of the additional staff and the reductions combined to get to that number. So when I did this, I did a head count of all of adds, minuses, come up with a head count, multiply by the base number we were going to use.
Okay, so this is that would have been a bigger number except for that, were the other subtractions.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for explaining it. And you guys can vote, yes.
All in favor? Motion passes. I had, oh, Laura Jane, yes. Yay.
I guess I have a couple of questions now because I want to still try to figure out how to bring the specials back. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm trying to understand what the purview of the school committee is around how much authority we have to make budget decisions like that. And if there are ways that we can cut from other places to bring in money back for the specials. And whether that is something, according to what you learned from the lawyer or attorney, whether that is something that is in our purview or I should just not talk anymore. You know, like I'm happy to like think about this and talk about it, but I want to make sure it's within something that we are allowed to do, given that we did not get the budget that we asked for from the town council.
Yes, we are allowed to revise this budget.
Then I have a question, Shannon. Way back when, it's a blur which meeting it was that we talked about this, but we had talked about doing an across the board cut of, I think, 1% to central office, which is the, why am I not wearing my glasses? The, I guess that is the central, it's not central, is it central administration that it
Yes.
falls under?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's, so in some of those payroll accounts, right, there's cuts, and some of them there's increases. And I guess I want to, you know, at the risk of getting myself into lots of trouble, I would like to figure out how to bring back those specials.
So I will say for central administration, we took the total of the payroll accounts and the expense accounts, multiplied that by, what did we say? It was 1% or did 1%?
Yes.
And then we already removed that from the central administration line within the superintendent's expense lines within travel and PD. And so that part was already removed. I mean, you don't see the full 1% as a decrease there because central administration includes the business office, HR, school committee, superintendent, and IT. And there are other increases within those lines or decreases within those lines. So you won't just see a net of 1% decrease there because other lines are combined.
Okay, thank you. So now I need to figure out where to take. Yeah.
Can I?
Bridget?
So one thing that I noticed is that the contingency line had doubled from last year. And I can understand why we would want to have more money in contingency because it's a lot of flow back and forth. But I also thought like the main reason why we're using contingency is oftentimes related to special education, and that is why we have a special education stabilization fund. So I'm putting out for discussion the question of the like 112,000 from the contingency as an area where we might be able to draw some funds.
May I just add to that really quick before a decision is made of that? There was some retirements and an anticipated vacation payout that is a larger sum that's in there. So we wouldn't be able to take it all.
What do you feel would be like a responsible number?
I will say if you could
So,
have your
I have
discussion, I
a
want to pull up the
concern.
back end.
I have a concern with that, Shannon. And my concern is being asked that on the floor. We were just told by Bridget, who said people make mistakes, but not in here. So I would caution us from making any suggestions without running our phone numbers of what the impact would be.
I have a budget related question. It's not directly related to the thing we're talking about, but it's related to the whole. So, how many classrooms are we running in Amethyst, in Chestnut? Is it 7 or 8?
I believe the last number I had was about, I think 8 or 9.
There's 7.
8? 7? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The 0.3 FTE for the split positions assumes the 8 because it wasn't 7 positions until later in the budgeting season. So it seems to me if we're splitting up proportionally the use of those people's time, we would be using a smaller fraction. And you would not be surprised to know that I think that fraction goes from the 0.3 to 0.27.
Can you rephrase that?
Can I what?
Can you repeat and rephrase that?
So there's the total number of classes. So we're splitting positions. We're splitting a dean's position. We're splitting a principal's position. We're splitting. I'm trying to remember which. So all of those 0.3s were based on an 8 classroom rotation. So we would be using 8 classrooms out of, by my calculation, there'd be 8 classrooms and 16 2/3 classrooms in the 7th and 8th grade, regardless of how many it is. When we reduce from 8 classrooms to 7 classrooms, the numerator in that fraction decreases from 8 to 7, and the denominator decreases as well because we have fewer classes. So the fraction of those FTEs is smaller than it was when we started this budget discussion.
So I think you're making a programmatic consideration based on the number of rooms, not the, and I don't want to go into certain specifics, but not what the makeup of the cohorts will be and the needs of what the students will need. Because you're saying you're cutting FTE based on 7 classrooms or 8 classrooms. But on our insight, the insight that we have programmatically, those FTEs are actually the lowest that we can go.
Those
I
FTEs
believe
are what? I'm sorry, you dropped off.
in terms of supports, those FTEs are at the lowest that we could that we could go if you're saying to reduce the FTEs in terms of the split. And then the next consideration, because I wasn't sure why 7, I believe that in this current year, at this point, the reasoning is the number of students that are in the Caminantes class. That's the reduction. And so the school year hasn't started. We still have an opening with possible school choice seats. And then, so there may still be the additional classroom, and that's just this year with 145 versus next year. So maybe I'm gonna be off with with your explanation of the math and what you're asking, but those FTEs are not based on the number of students only. It's also based on the needs of our students and the programming that needs to be put forth. If I'm explaining what or if I'm understanding what you're asking.
My understanding when we initially asked the question was it was based on the number of hours that those people would be spending with the students.
Right, so that's programming needs.
So if you have fewer classes, so
But our
you're,
needs are,
uh-oh. We lost you for a minute.
no, I stopped. I was interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. So
So what I'm saying is you are counting classroom numbers, right?
Yeah.
You're counting a number of classrooms.
mhm.
What we told you was, and you just said it, you said it's based on the number of hours that they would need to put in to serve the students. That's a programmatic, that's not a number of rooms situation. That's providing services to children, and that hasn't changed. Those needs have not changed.
Okay, so when we're talking about splitting teacher positions or the librarian in particular, that, or the specials, all of those scale with not the number of individuals, but the number of classes. That I was very clear on that when we asked how those were done, and Shannon said she counted hours. On
Right.
the other hand, if you actually look at the percentages, if you divide 142 into the total, you don't get 0.3. You get a lower number. I've made this calculation in several contexts. One in the lease context, that it seems to me like there's different numbers that are being assessed to the Amherst School District by the regional school district. A third is one of the numbers that has been discussed. 0.3 has, and at no point has 0.27 been discussed, which is both the number that you get when you divide 1.42 into a different number, as well as the number that you get when you rescale by classes. So in neither case do you get 0.3.
So what are you taking into account in an educator's day? Because if you're talking about the fact that and I'm going to say this in my frankest term, if you're talking about on-stage time versus off-stage time, because we have to account for preparation for these classes as well, and the work that goes into to addressing these students. So if you bring up the librarian, if the librarian is 0.3, and a part of that 0.3 is not just the support and the services, the direct services to students, but let's talk about the indirect preparation and stuff for the classes or things that come into that, to that approach. So you can't, education is not just about numbers and percentages. There's a semblance of things that you see versus what you don't see. And we have to adequately compensate and take that into account. So it's not as easy as dividing numbers and saying, okay, 142 divided by 3 or divided by 7. There's other things that come into play when you come to addressing the needs of students. And one of them is planning and preparation that you don't see. And that's accounted for any teacher.
And this is where this process of the budget has been really hard to follow, because I asked that question very pointedly and was told that there was no scaling for the prep time. Sarah?
Um, I understand the desire to restore the specials, or not restore, the whole system is changing, but to um, make the whole specials program maybe less onerous for the teachers next year. But I feel we're trying to find, we would be trying to make calculations so accurate to find every little dollar where we would need hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, it looks like, that there would be no flexibility in the budget. There would be no room for error. I think we would be constantly dealing with having to shove money around because there wasn't quite, we had taken some out of these 5 cost centers in order to put more money into specials, and it just didn't work out that way. I mean, again, I appreciate the intent. I wish town council had seen its way to funding the budget that we requested, but they haven't. And I think I don't think it's likely to lead to a good budget if we, at this point, with 2 weeks left in the fiscal year, we're trying to dig out another couple $100,000. I just don't think that will end up with a sensible and with a good budget.
Bridget?
So like Laura, I was so concerned when I heard, like, basically, we're asking one person, one very skilled person for each of those for Amethyst Brook to now take double the number of students, have one person do the job of 2 people, to teach 30 classes a week with 1 prep time a day. When the reason that those teachers historically have more prep is because you have to go from teaching kindergarten in 1 hour to 6th grade in the next, like, your head's on the swivel, right? And then you're adjusting, as opposed to, say, for the 30 IEPs in your class and the other class that you work in, if you're in 6th grade where there's more, or the 19 if you're in 2nd grade. Instead, you've got the whole 154 and all those modifications to make. So I, like Laura Jane, am very concerned about the model that we're proposing, and that the folks who hold those roles told us are impossible, and that many of them would not wish that experience on their worst enemy, and yet we're going to ask them to do it, which is a sure way to lose great staff and bring in, other folks who maybe are less experienced, less knowledgeable, never mind all the extra things that those people usually do for school culture, whether it's organizing the read out loud or the Black History Month reading or the band concert, etc. So I do have deep concerns about this, and I thought a lot about it. And when I mentioned the second motion that I had was, I think I also agree that, like, it would be very hard to restore $335,000 to budget. That's a big amount. But then I was thinking, okay, what if we had 4.5 designated paras? So each one of those people had a designated para, and that money, when I was looking and I was thinking, like, some from the contingency, we can't do anything to cut from the unit staff. So we have to look at school administration or central office or facilities or contingency, like those are the places, right? So as opposed to me coming up with the number, I thought, could we just vote to add 4.5 designated paraprofessionals, one for each specials teacher, and then let the folks who are dealing with the expertise of what those different offices are come up with it from a place that's viable. And then we would have like you said, a short past the final budget motion, which, later on. So that was just one idea I had that I wanted to throw out to the committee. And I think it's like a compromise between what Laura's saying and the idea of not doing anything, which I personally, from hearing what I've heard, feel like is unconscionable.
So some of this remains an issue of information flow. I've read the extensive information Dr. Z has provided regarding central office, and I've been all over the place on it. And I've also talked to people who have made the observation that over the years, the whittling away of central office has created some structural instability, which Dr. Z has worked hard to restore. So perhaps our insight into the impact of reductions in the classrooms, in the buildings, skews what we see in terms of what is necessary for the proper functioning of central. However, the opposite is true because we don't have that insight, and we don't have the ability to do more than just say, are you sure that you need all those extra people that have come up? We have not been able to negotiate a reduction in central office. And I don't know what to do with that impasse, because do I believe it is flush? I do not. Do I believe the structure that we have developed over the last 2 years is optimal? I don't believe that either. I don't have, unlike the insight that we get from our educators, I don't have insight into what it looks like without one of the extra admin assistants. I don't have the insight into what it looks like without Bridget and I just put this person out there because there's somebody I'm aware of, the assistant director of facilities. If you go back 5-7 years, we didn't have a separate food services person. We had a combined position. I've looked at central office over the past 10 years, and there's been fluctuations. How Dr. Z chooses to run her administration, of course, is up to her. However, when we're looking at these kinds of large impacts on the culture of the schools at a time where there is a lot of change, I think it is reasonable for us to push harder on central. And I just feel like there needs to be a compromise, and we have not, we're 3 months in and we've not gotten anywhere in negotiating that. Laura Jane.
If we level, I don't know if this is the right way to talk about it, but if we took back the additions in payroll for central administration, we would get back 83K. If we took back the expense accounts, I don't really understand what that is, but we'd get another 6,200. And then there are a few positions in central office that I can absolutely think of as being, while being critical to the district, are not as critical as having a specials staff fully funded so that we don't lose people. Because Bridget's point is the thing that has been keeping me up at night, is that it's not just that we're not going to be serving the students adequately, it's also that we're going to lose our incredible staff because they're going to be so overworked and so burned out that this first year of this new experiment of 2 elementary schools plus Chestnut Street Academy is going to fail. And I don't know what we're going to do if that happens. So it seems to me like we actually can, and I'm just handwriting, I'm not even like using my calculator, but I can pretty easily find almost $200,000 if I cut one position in central office altogether and take back the money that is central administration has is adding for the change for the proposed 27, 20, it says 27, 26, but it really means 27, 28 school year, right? The number change? Because we've got, well, up here, right here.
The next school year.
Not 27, 26 though.
It's comparing our next fiscal year.
Right,
So it's the difference.
right, between these two, right, okay. Just, it's weird to see 26 before 27.
Yeah.
That's all. So, I mean, I don't know if this is an executive session conversation. Maybe it's not appropriate to have this conversation. Maybe I'm just gonna say it. I don't know. I'm like
Say what?
positions that I think could be reduced.
No,
No,
no, no, no,
don't say that.
we're not going.
But I do think that I could, I mean, I think I can find $200,000 pretty quickly. And that's 2/3 of the way towards what we need.
Sarah?
All right. We cannot have the budget we want. We cannot have the amount of money that we want and that we know we need to do what we think is the minimum for our students. And it's easy to look at the quote unquote non-student facing positions and think that's where we can take money. But I want also want to point out that that we tend to forget all the demands that our committee makes on the central office through the year and over the years, and many of which are endorsed by our other school committees. For example, we have for years now insisted on increased attention, training, oversight, and accountability around bullying and harassment. That takes administrative leadership and time. Excuse me. We have urgently insisted on increased attention to all the same things around restraint and seclusion. That all takes administrative involvement and oversight to write the procedures, to get, I mean, the student-facing people are not the ones who make all that, who start all that change and make it happen and force it through the system. We have had a high level of concern around communications, like with families, and we've also had great concern around the need to reduce absenteeism among students. All of that takes, and many other things that we have said are very important to us, take administrators. So we can, I mean, are we willing to give up on some of that? Like we'll trade away the attention to restraint and seclusion in favor of specials? I mean, because it just looks like administration, black box, but they're the ones who are doing the things that we've been really insistent on, in some case, over several years.
Dr. Z?
I just wanted to make this statement very clear, especially since I've already heard that there are specific school committee members who, through their community liaisons or different individuals, have been reaching out to central office administration and different employees in a district to find out or have them come sit with them and tell them about how they work with the superintendent or how the district functions versus coming in and having direct conversation. Laura Jane, I'll say it louder for everyone in the back. Just I'll be very clear. I've already heard that Amherst school committee members, through direct and indirect, have been having themselves or their community partners or in quote unquote constituents reach out to different individuals within the central office administration or to speak to employees to find out how the central office functions or to come sit with them and tell them different conversations versus having a direct conversation with the superintendent or even anyone else on the leadership team. My biggest concern is the diminishment of the work that this team puts in and I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about the individuals who sit here until sometimes midnight or 1 a.m. at the behest of a school committee who has to discuss everything and who has to go through everything and who has to walk through everything. And then to sit and turn around and sometimes have to come up with 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 30 pages of work, still execute whatever you ask them to do. You're correct, Sarah. And still do the day-to-days of making sure that the district run. Is the central office perfect? No. Is any building perfect? No. Our administrators, from the school principals to the administrators and individuals who work within central office, work very hard. The unionized staff work very hard. And so to sit here and hear, oh, I could just call out a number and cut them, that's very dismissive of their work. And to hear individuals speak to the fact that, and this is something that you hear consistently where different individuals talk about central office, central office. When I came in, there was positions when I first entered these districts that were cut from central office. Deb, you stood outside for 20 minutes, about 10 minutes the other day, 10 to 20 minutes the other day, and had to text me to come open the door for you because we don't have a receptionist or anyone to buzz us in. That's a shared task amongst individuals who have other duties in central office. So we're not sitting in a plush, overly expansive central office. We have 4 people in HR to run 3 districts. We have about 6 to 8 people in IS to run 3 districts, to program. We're scrounging at individuals right now in the summer to restore broken Chromebooks and still have to run wires in new buildings and still have to reprogram. We have operations. Yes, we have individuals who are supporting facilities. We consolidated transportation. I say before we talk about the things that can go in front of children, think about the fact that you would also be shifting and the back end, the framework that keeps individuals able to function and be in front of children comes from the fact that a functional central office, as functioning and whatever we're limping on, works. Last year we made cuts, we reduced the time of individuals. We still are accounting for that. And some of those individuals still put forth extra effort to do what needs to be done. So if you're saying, and I take offense because they do work hard and many of them work just as hard and they may not spend every day in front of children, but they're there because they're dedicated to making sure that this system can function so children can learn well. And so I would be remiss if I didn't say that sitting down and saying that we could look at a sheet without talking about what the impact is and what those calculations may be. And that fact that we didn't take that into account. I think I was accused of, after I had met with the chair and told me, please outline everything in detail about central office. And I was accused of putting in too much pages around central office versus our questions for everything else. But it was central office who sat down and gathered that information to make sure we could present, and the information that the 10 spreadsheets and different things that are asked of us, we do. So we not only serve the school committee, not only serve the community, but we also
Bridget?
serve the schools. And I just would like us to not be dismissed.
Um, you know, there's always tension between entities. I think that's inherent in limited resources. That's what I experienced when I joined the Amherst School Committee. Mostly the tensions initially were between the town and the school committee. I think more recently, there's tension, as you've seen perhaps by my calculations, between school committees. My role as representing the Amherst School Committee feels at times really very incompatible with my role as representing the Regional School Committee. And I've discussed this with town councilors and pointed this out. It's also just an inordinate amount of work for volunteers who have day jobs. I thank everyone for all their support with the minutes. There was a position in Central prior to this, the last 2 years, where the minutes, the postings were done. We are our own administrative support. So I am not indifferent to the demands that public service places on anybody, teachers, administrators, et cetera. And yes, those tensions come out when we're looking at making these kinds of really hard decisions. I, again, 10:30 last night, I had a conversation after town council broke about with town councilors about the things that administration has to do. And I said, there are compliance issues. And one of them said, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know administration. And yeah, they're reporting out on grants and all the many different things that go to making the buildings run. And I don't have any insight into what that takes. Dr. Z does, and said pretty clearly that many different ways that this is what she needs to make the wheels stay on the bus. But I also heard in this room on March 17th something that categorically impacted the community that we have known, the educational structure that we understand has been historic in this town for many, 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 many years, predating me, as well as every other superintendent that sat in that seat before you. So that our responsibility skews towards those individuals, I'm sorry, those are our constituents, and you are our chief educational advisor. At the same time, we haven't been given very many choices that we have found acceptable. And I think the scenarios, the development of the budget, the questions, the requests, all of that was looking for solutions and not finding any. So here we are 3 months later, still not having something that works for the 5 of us, plus you. And I don't know what that leaves. Laura Jim.
Shannon, are you still around?
Yes.
How much does,
How much does an individual make?
no,
Okay,
oh no,
go ahead.
I wasn't gonna ask how much a person made, no.
Okay.
I was gonna ask how much the district spends on technology. You talked about Chromebooks, Dr. Z. I didn't know that the elementary schools get Chromebooks. I know that the 7th graders did, but I didn't know that the elementary schools did. How much do we spend, would you say, like on Chromebooks, on tablets, on repairing of the, I mean, I know this is like a lot of data to try to pull out of your brain, and I'm not asking you for the exact sense, but like, are we talking like, and like the iReady curriculum and all the other curriculums like that, whatever we purchase or pay for or have licenses for, how much of those could you give me like a ballpark
So
for
our
that?
Chromebooks, so this year, for Amherst, Jerry Champagne, our director of IT, went before JCPC to use capital funding to purchase the Chromebooks. And the Chromebooks are on a cart. They're not one-to-one like the regional school. So those are rotated. When we need like repairs, like a new keyboard of things of that sort, that comes out of the IT budget line. So in the budget book, there's a section called information systems, and you'll see the expense lines for IT, and you can see the past history of what we've spent previously. And then in terms of software, some of the software that's used district-wide is purchased out of the IT budget, but some software that might be very specific to the high school or I'm sorry, we're talking about Amherst, but specific for the buildings will be within other lines, not just within IT. So I'm not able to give you that exact number right now. But because it's spread out depending on which department and what it's for.
But you could maybe figure out, generally speaking, like how much we pay annually to different corporations for curriculum?
Well, I don't know those off the top of my head, although I think we did provide in a memo the cost for the iReady program. I'm not sure off the top of my head what other curriculums that we purchase.
I mean, I know of magnetic literacy, but I don't know if that's used exclusively in I don't know where the licenses are. So, okay, wrapping it up. Trying to just get those numbers.
Oh, are you waiting on me?
I don't expect, I mean, I know you can't possibly pull this
Oh,
out
yeah,
this
that's
right
what I was
now.
gonna say. I can't, there's no way.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm interested in finding out would be how much money we've spent on licenses, software, magnetic literacy, iReady. Those are the ones I know the names of. But I don't know what else has been in the elementary curriculum. So just curious, like what that might yield us if we decided to step away from that.
Sarah,
In 2 weeks, it's July 1st, a new fiscal year. These questions that suggest we might, this 11th hour, make changes to our classroom technology or our curriculum, those would have huge ramifications on our educational program. That's not something we just decide, like, we're not going to do Chromebooks anymore. I mean, my goodness, every teacher in every elementary school would suddenly have a whole lot of work to do over the summer. We don't change curriculum at the drop of a hat. That involves careful review. So I appreciate that, sincere effort to find some money for to put back into specials, but this is not a responsible approach to budgeting. Again, I get the goal, but with 2 weeks left in the fiscal year, it's too, in my opinion, is too late for all this.
Bridget,
So a couple of things. First, we don't even have the state budget yet. I mean, this is how school budgets run. Unfortunately, it's not our fault. We're doing this in June. Town council voted this last night, right? So this is the process. Would I agree this should be the process? I would not. If I could, we would all live in Denmark, but what I wanted to say is I think that what's going on here is that all of us are trying to look at the places where there is still flexibility, because we don't have flexibility in the union contracts, but we have flexibility in some other spaces, right? And so Deb's named one, Laura's named one, I've named one. Everyone's looking at these areas, there might be flexibility, right? And we can think of other ones too, like um, contracts or consultants or things like that, where we know a lot of funds go, right? And so what I would suggest instead is that we just try to think of what do we want to get out of this for our elementary schools? And then how can we set something up in terms of like, giving that directive and then saying, next week or whatever, can you give us this so we can vote on it?
Laura Jane.
Okay, I think I've kind of put together a motion. Let's see how I can put it together. Give me a sec, Yeah, I can always send this to you.
That's always helpful. Okay, go for it.
I move to reallocate a total of $200,000 from a combination of building administration, central administration, expense accounts, consulting fees, I think, contingency, and licenses and curriculum.
Send it to me.
Okay, and add, because I mean, I think in what, keeping in what Bridget is talking about, add 4.5 para-professional staffing positions to support music, art, tech, library, and phys ed at the elementary schools.
Second.
Bridget?
I just want to make a friendly amendment. Could we say that those 4.5 positions are designated?
I accept that friendly amendment.
I do too.
Oh, good. Yes, Shannon.
May I add, if it's paraprofessionals, the base number that we would use is 30,000 times 4.5, which is 135,000. Just adding.
And the fringe you don't usually calculate.
For the paraprofessionals,
Yeah.
some of them do have insurance, but a lot of them don't. It's unlikely.
Laura Jane.
Sorry, did you just say that some of our staff are not getting fringe benefits?
It's whether they elect to have them or not. I'm saying overall, there's some paraeducators that, if teachers versus paraeducators, teachers, most of them have insurance. If it's paraeducators, the swing of who most of them have them is opposite of teachers. I'm not saying that they're not allowed to have them. I'm saying whether they elect to have them or not.
So I think to be safe, we want to keep that 200,000 in there in case everyone elects to have their fringe benefits.
Can I just say, I think if it were only 20,000 for the $182,000 line, that we wouldn't need that whole amount. So maybe Shannon could give us the number of what it would be if everyone were choosing in.
Well, in that case, I would say 7,500 is the lowest amount. We use that because we don't know what plan staff will go on. Like PPO plans are higher, so regardless what their salary is, the cost of the insurance is the same. So it would, 75,000 times 4.5 is 33,750.
$163,750.
No, 7,500 times 4.5 FTE is 33,750.
Okay, so then I guess I would amend my amendment to make it 5 full-time.
Can't amend an amendment.
I can amend my amendment.
Amendment don't get amended. You have to fail it and start all over again.
Or someone can do a friendly amendment to the new dollar amount.
Oh, I was going to go the other way. I was going to add more people.
I just don't think you can amend an amendment. I think it just stops at 2.
I have to fail my own
I
amendment.
think you do, or withdraw it.
I have a different amendment. To the original motion, not to unsnarl this thing.
You're on your own, Sarah, Laura Jane. But I don't think you can amend, I think you can withdraw an amendment and then make another amendment. But I don't think you can amend an amendment. So you can withdraw your amendment.
I shall withdraw my amendment and make a new amendment, make a new motion. I will withdraw my motion and make a brand new motion.
Is that okay with you, Andrew?
It is okay with me.
Okay. Starting over again.
Literally the same exact motion, which I will send you, but instead of 4.5 FTE, it's the maximum number of staff that we can fund with $200,000.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sarah?
Right. So my amendment is that we move to request the superintendent to submit us a new budget that applies $200,000. That's the number to payroll and benefits for paraeducators to support specialists, and to tell us what has changed and what are the impacts on other aspects of the budget, and to have that before the end of June so we could vote on it.
Is that agreeable to you, Laura Jane?
So that the import is that I don't want to vote to do it. I'm happy to vote to ask the administration to submit us a new budget that shows how this would be done.
Is that an amendment or is that a different motion?
I think it's an amendment. It's instead of passing it, it's asking the administration to propose us a budget that meets this goal.
I don't accept that amendment because I think that's what we've been trying to do for months and we haven't gotten there. So I feel like we have to be more, and I'm supposed to be speaking to the chair. We have to be more just explicit and clear and directive, and I gotta fight. for the
I'm gonna
special.
disagree with anyone asking us for months to talk about where we're moving $200,000 from and putting it to. So I will not, I think the school committee knows by now that Dr. Z is not going to allow anybody to put a false narrative out there around the work of this administration. What is being asked tonight to move from specific areas to another, to put forth positions. Let's not put that falsity out there that's been asked for months for para positions and different positions. Y'all can have your conversations, but please don't make it seem like my team did not put forth what's being asked tonight, because what's being asked tonight has not been asked of us.
Can I speak?
So we have a motion, we have an amendment that was posed and declined. So we're back to the original amendment, original motion.
Can I read it to see if I understand it?
Yes.
I move to reallocate a total of $200,000 from a combination of building administration, central administration expenses, expense accounts, consulting fees, contingency, and curricular expenses, and add 4.5 designated paraprofessional staffing line to support music, art, technology, library, and physical education programs at the elementary schools. Is that right?
No, I changed it to make it the maximum number of staff that we can, maximum number of paras that we can fund with $200,000.
I don't love that piece only because it seemed like very clean, like we're saying each person gets one person to support them in this formulation. Five, you think it would be five? Well, let's do the math on five then.
When we're doing the math, are we doing just the salaries, or are we including the the health insurance? You know,
I don't think that's enough.
sorry.
5 times 30 is 150, and then plus 7, no, it's still, I think it's under 200,000. Hold on. And 5 times 75, so we could put the exact amount in there, which would be 187.5.
So is that,
I think that's just a friendly amendment. That's up to Laura if she likes the idea.
So
Did see or nod?
5 people, yes. Yep.
does whoever seconded it in the first place,
That was me. And
Okay.
yeah, I accept the amendment.
and Sarah wants to speak?
Yes, thank you. I want to say that this problem that we're trying to fix, it's not the superintendent's fault. It's not our fault. It's not the community's fault. There is not enough money for our schools. So I don't think that the discussions about who supplied what information or did and didn't do is really helpful. Secondly, I think it's the height of foolishness for us to do back of the envelope calculations and make a new budget. We are responsible for the whole budget, not just the student facing instruction. Every part of the budget, we are responsible for knowing that it is adequate, or at least we are happy with what can be done with that amount of money. And we don't know what the effects of this motion would be. So I will certainly not vote for it. I would, as I proposed earlier, be happy to have another meeting to consider the administration's take on what would be the best way of accomplishing this. But enough said.
I call the question, so do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So no discussion, we're just going to vote on the. Oh, we have to vote to call the question. So everybody willing to call the question, raise their hands. Okay, 5-0. So can Bridget reread, or Laura, Jane, somebody?
Thanks. I move to reallocate a total of $187,500 from a combination of building administration, central administration, expense accounts, consulting fees, contingency, and curricular expenses, and to fund 5 designated full-time paraprofessionals to support music, art, technology, library, and physical education programs at the elementary schools.
back to my long night here in the town room, one of the counselors observed that that amount of money within the budget that we have should be doable. Of course, this is not somebody who worked in as a superintendent, but when you're talking, they spoke to talking about a $20 million budget and being able to find, actually it was 120, 180,000 that seemed to this person within reason. No, that's a $100 million budget, the town budget. Any further discussion on the motion we have in front of us? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Let's take a break. Come back at 8:57. Turn off your mics, please. Oh, that's not good. That's, he's never said that.
Yeah,
So, you know,
right, and there's so many nights a week, and also she's like, she knows it's a time where there's gonna be more separate. And so she knows a little like that. This way.
He's doing it, but she said that, you said, so it's, you know, it's better and it's not better, and it is better, but it's not normal. And so, okay. I said, well, that's why. Exactly, so that was just, my child tells me what they need, and I say, oh, exactly. It's not like I need a Mercedes.
Yep.
Before you, Mom, okay, you got it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay. It just, you know.
I love, I guess I should probably this to you.
Thank you.
Just FYI, we do that so we can monitor whether it quits or not. So
Okay.
we'll only hear it, but I'll monitor everybody.
Okay. Oh, I closed it anyway.
What do you need?
So the regulations were when I sent back 47.
Okay.
No, I sent. I sent you the first one earlier.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no one saw you, and I said, I can.
I can't. I cannot multitask. Okay. I have to get back into the Zoom, which means I have to go back to the, what are you guys talking about over there?
How much I said, well, my folks down at Memorial and going to do like the nationals or something. There's protests and stuff.
Cough. It is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also proved we're really just all very close to each other. Okay, so we are back in session at 9 o'clock. And our next order of business is the Wildwood vote. There has been a request to take a look at expediting our meeting and peeling off stuff that doesn't involve central office for later. Because we do have to come back and vote the cost centers for the budget that we just requested.
Deb, there's
So
nothing on
what
this
does-
budget that does not include central office. There's nothing on this agenda that does not include central office.
Sorry, thank you. We're back in session at 9:01 now. There's been a request to look at the parts of the meeting that require central office folks and just put the rest on hold until the meeting that we need to revote our cost centers. So I think that means, with your permission, we could put off the relinquish vote or just blast through it. The CPAC funding can wait. I'd like to do the dual language and the iReady. Oh, that's me. It's tabs. Ugh. I'd like to do Caminantes. I'd like to do iReady. And I'd like to, those are the two that I would say, and then I'm open to the suggestions about what to do with the Wildwood relinquish vote.
So you're saying we will have another meeting before the end of June to
Be-
vote that,
to-
so we could just shove these things.
We could, but we've made Tanya and.
No, I mean,
Oh,
the ones.
all
we're
the,
putting
yes,
off,
yes.
We can still do them this month.
We
just
can
take-
still do them this month,
Yeah.
just we need to
Yeah,
reschedule.
that's fine.
And our month is pretty packed, but is that amenable to folks putting off item C, which is the CPAC application for funding for Crocker Farm Playground? Item D, no, item F, I'd like to put off student safety and well-being. And Sarah, the community volunteer program for student help in math and reading. So we'll put those off, and we would just love to hear from Tanya on the Comandantes and the iReady. Okay,
Deb, can I ask a question?
yes,
And I'm really gonna ask this question. Claire, for Claire, are you making the decision to move certain items to later in this month without consulting and asking about the staff members or central office members because you're assuming that these individuals are full year?
my understanding is that those items that we're putting off, yes, I am. So, Dr. Z, how do you feel about that?
I feel like that there's a consistent disrespect of this of positions and not clarification asked. That's how I feel. Are you asking me how I feel about putting things off? Because that's how I feel about it.
Okay, so your preference would be to continue with them?
My preference would be for the school committee to adequately move to use their time and adequately move through without impacting the individuals who have sat here to present them at this time. Because moving it to later in this month or in these months are assuming that these individuals will be here to present it.
So my intention was to move the items. Okay. So let's then continue.
Because Wildwood has a budgetary impact and the school committee just just voted to move money from different areas that has a budgetary impact. So it would behoove the school committee to relinquish Wildwood. It would behoove the school committee to talk about student safety and well-being because you just opted to move funding from in certain cost centers that would be impacted and will impact student safety and well-being without thinking about the impact to the district. So it would behoove us to walk through these things for clarity. And I would be asking if there is going to be another meeting for the budget because you moved money from cost centers, or are you just basically leaving it up to the district to determine, which I think is unfair when we've already, so I'm hoping that there is another meeting around budget.
Yes, there will be another meeting around budget. We will be able to vote and approve minutes by then.
By when? Because the budget takes effect July 1 and we are on June 16th. So we would need one. I'm going to be asking for the minutes to be voted real soon so that or for the school committee to send us the clarity in the motions that was just sent because July 1 is around the corner.
So we will have approved minutes for you before the budget needs to be voted. Is that what I really
Before
have
the
a hard
budget
time
needs to
hearing
be
you.
loaded.
Can you, again, please speak closer to the mic?
I'll speak a little bit louder.
That's
The
great.
school committee just made a very impactful and hasteful decision and moved to impact, which impacts various things that you are asking us to present. So my question is, will you have either minutes or clarity on the vote that you just sent to send to the district? And there needs to be, whether or not you guys opted to move with Sarah's motion. Sarah's motion actually makes sense because there is impact to district functionality because the school committee just made a hasteful, and to me, I can't put what my additional feelings are on it, decision that impacts the operation of the district in your last motion. So
I understand. I'm asking now about what parts of the agenda. we
there
had
is no
dis-
part of the agenda that can be skipped unless you want to, you could do the CPAC application for funding for Cracker Farm, that's fine. But the other parts actually are impacted by that vote that was just given. So I'm hoping that the school committee just needs to relinquish Wildwood because there's not much contingency that you have left for us to move forward on. We need to walk through the other parts, and especially student safety and well-being should not be skipped because that has budgetary impacts, because that's training and other things that you just opted to cut from other areas. So please, let's walk through them timely.
Okay. So the relinquish Wildwood vote. I had intended to see if we could put a preference attached to the relinquish Wildwood vote. That was requested by the committee. I did not do that. So we are no further along than we were last time. I'm going to make the same motion, which is, where is it? I got it. Oh, boy, I don't have. Ugh.
May I,
Yes,
may I say? I'll make a motion.
please.
I will move.
Please do.
I will move that the school committee relinquish the Wildwood Elementary School property to the town of Amherst as of July 1st.
I second. Was there discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Okay. The Cominantes Dual Language Program overview and update, please.
Um,
All right, good evening, everyone. I believe you have the document for the Cominantes review. Celia couldn't be with us tonight, so I'm going to walk, well, I'll let you, since you've already seen it, just answer a couple things for you. But in the review, we looked at the overall impact of the enrollment. We looked at the original purpose. We connected with UMass, who we've already had a data sharing agreement with, to review the data for Cominantes. And as you looked, there's some preliminary data in there that is strong. I'm saying preliminary because the review is not over. I know you asked for it, but we were already doing this, and it doesn't actually end. I think the final thing is given to us in July, but it's with Dr. Mary Louisa and Dr. Daniel, who actually were also members of the original steering committee. And so I'll just leave it open for questions that you might have around the document you received.
Sarah?
This is really interesting analysis, Tanya. Thank you. And to the UMass researchers. Because I've been wondering a lot that it's time we had a program review and to learn whether Cominantes has done what it was set up to do, separate from whatever we right now might assume it is meant to do or wish it to do. My question, so they noted, or you all have noted, an imbalance in that there are more native English speakers than Spanish speakers in the program currently. um, And that you plan to rectify that, I guess, going forward. My question is, and I don't know if you can answer this, is there any downside to the Spanish speakers in the class, in Comandantes, to be outnumbered by native English speakers? That is it inhibiting their acquisition of English to have so many native English speakers?
So we were just having a steering committee yesterday about this. So yes, it does. One of the steering committee members who's actually at UMass, a linguist, says you need more Spanish. It would be okay to be more Spanish speakers, not more English speakers. But our dual language program is a two-way program, not an immersion program. So we signed up with DESE for a two-way program, which means that we would have the same equal 50-50, so equal Spanish, equal native English speakers. And right now, some of the way our numbers look, it looks more like an immersion program, which is not a 50-50 dual language program. So that's why we're working on the enrollment. And this year, Celia did an excellent job, and it's just an amazing job with outreach. And right now we have 14 native Spanish speakers, and which allows us to have 14 English speakers. Like I mentioned yesterday, they talked about it would be okay to be over on the Spanish speaking side, but not the English speaking side because of just what you were talking about.
If I can follow up then,
Yes.
students come and go, so any cohort, let's say next year's kindergarten cohort, over the next couple years, maybe some of the English speaking kids will move away from Amherst, or some of the Spanish. So the balance may change, and I believe it's hard to bring in students after kindergarten. So have you thought about, I mean, it would be terrible to kick a kid out because the numbers, to restore some desired ratio. So how do you expect to deal with attrition?
So
I thought that might be, once the study is complete, some questions to ask the original working group and steering committee.
Well, they're working on the program for next year. I guess if Tanya has thoughts about either
Okay.
what the current practice is or what they're considering, I'd be
Okay.
happy to hear that now.
Yeah, of course.
It may need more information first.
Okay.
yes, right now, the way
Preliminarily, yeah.
right now, native Spanish speakers are allowed to test in to come into the program at any particular grade level. So it doesn't have to be that they get in kindergarten. That is the practice right now.
Laura J.
Thank you so much for putting this together. It's really helpful to look at data about this. Just checking on the quantities of students. I know it says there are currently 217 students in the Comandantes, and then it looks like incoming kindergartners this is for this fall, right? Is 28, is that correct?
The current demographic is what's on here, but 28 for next year, yes.
And then 14 native speakers and 14 English speakers?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Perfectly balanced. Was that on purpose?
Yes, so we went back to the original discussion around the dual language program. So we took our native Spanish speakers first and then matched them with a peer partner that's a native English speaker. We won't take another English speaker unless we have a Spanish speaker.
Bridget.
Thank you, Tanya. This is really helpful, and I'm glad that we're getting this sort of data pulled together. I had two questions. One is just, do you know how the imbalance came about so that we can prevent it in the future? And secondly, it shows that for for students whose first language is not English, where it's Spanish, that they aren't meeting or exceeding expectations yet, but there is some growth. Like, are there suggestions or recommendations to accelerate the progress in that regard?
All right, I'll start with the second part first. So to Deb's point, the review's not done yet. And they gave us this preliminary data because we asked, because we were already doing this. And I'm not sure if the committee was aware, we were already working with UMass and our group on a data sharing agreement because we were, this was the year to study it now that we have our 6th grade. So I don't have those recommendations yet, and they probably will not be ready until you come back in August. So it'll be, I think, to us at the end of July. With the first, how did the imbalance occur? So I was not here when the imbalance started, so I can only go on anecdotal evidence or information. It was trying to keep the numbers of the program at a certain level, and so they just admitted students based on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Yes, Sarah.
A little one, maybe this is a group Bridget was referring to, the ELL students that are mentioned. These are students whose native language is neither English nor Spanish, so they're working on being trilingual.
No, so an ELL student is not someone who is Spanish speaking, but in this case, for our dual language program, all of our ELL students are Spanish speaking students. So it is for students that are learning and developing English proficiency or literacy right now. So some of our native Spanish speakers come with limited Spanish access themselves. So it's not that all ELL students in our district are native Spanish speakers. It just so happens because of the dual language program that they are.
I'm confused. The ELL students in Comanantes,
Are Spanish speakers.
they're learning their ELL because they're learning English, yes?
Right, yes.
But
So
why
their
aren't
English,
all of them? Why aren't all?
because some of them do come with some English skills. Not all native Spanish speakers have limited English proficiency. Did that make sense?
My question is that based on the restoration of the interventionists, does this now mean that there will be reading support in Spanish?
I do not know and can't speak to that until I think you all give further instructions to the district.
So on the flip side, prior to the discussion this evening, the reading interventionist, the bilingual reading interventionist's position had been cut. Correct? Is that correct?
So,
Can you repeat your
if the-
question, Deb?
I was going to say, could you repeat it?
So before we had the budgetary discussion this evening, is my understanding is the bilingual reading interventionist position had been reduced. Is that correct?
Reduced?
Eliminated, cut. What's the word?
So there was a need for and to be clear, an interventionist is like a gen ed teacher, and so there was a need for a classroom teacher, and so that person was moved into a classroom teaching position.
So then what happens in the restoration scenario?
We'll have to walk through that scenario to determine what it is before
okay.
we speak to them.
Okay, thank you. My understanding, and it may be incomplete, is that there used to be co-taught classrooms at Fort River, Wildwood, and Crocker, and that those arrangements are retained in some of the buildings, but not others. And in particular, not be in the structure current structure of Fort River, it was not possible to have a co-taught classroom given the distribution of needs in the building between the two programs. Is that accurate?
Point of order, are you talking about Cominantes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm,
Oh.
Are you asking if Cominantes has co-taught classrooms?
Yes, I am.
So they have their Spanish teacher for the Spanish language courses, or content that they get, and then there's their English counterpart. They don't teach simultaneously together, but they are teaching both cohorts of each grade level.
Okay. And so then none of the classroom teachers are special education teachers as well in Cominantes, is that correct?
I'm not sure of the licensure of all the teachers
Okay.
in that program,
Okay.
so I would be remiss
Okay, thank
to
you.
say something
All right.
that's not true.
I just wanted to know how the budgetary impacts have over the years and the structural part of Fort River have impacted the co-taught part support for students in those programs, but we don't have that information. So one of the things I want to clarify for the many people watching at 9:25 on a random Tuesday is that the point of the administration reviewing the information and the point of the request to bring it forward is to make the Cominantes program, if it is able to be better, to improve it. It is not to diminish the program at all. This program was developed through extensive community input, research, planning, and it is nothing that any kind of review would then cause its demise. The idea is that, as Tanya said, it's a program that's been in effect for a while. It's time for a program review. It's trying to see if the goals of the program have been met, and if not, or can be better met, how to do that. And my intention was to request that perhaps the working group meet with the steering committee and look overall at some of those issues. But that sounds preliminary to the report that you will be bringing forward in August. Is that, unless it makes sense to ask for the working group to reconvene and work on that simultaneously over the summer? Is that something that might make sense to do, or should we do it sequentially, do you think, Dr. Z or Tanya?
I think that we should wait for the report and see what the feedback is, see what the data says. Probably do a review with because some of the individuals who were on the original working group are a part of whether the steering committee or the UMass bilingual hub. So I think that the essence of what you're looking for is going to happen once the report
That
is
makes
done.
sense.
I actually feel like it was a great opportunity to delve into the conversation, and to even see the numbers and make sure that, we haven't gotten too far from what it was. I think we did get far. I think we need to get back on track in terms of the original intention. And my understanding is the original intention was developed for our native Spanish speakers, our students who are English learners whose primary language was not English, to actually, build their fluency in the English language and to help build their comprehension and their mathematical skills. We kind of seesawed a bit, but I think that we're on the goals to get back on track to make sure that we can actually adequately serve that population.
Go ahead, sir. So one of the things that I've never been able to delve into is some sixth grader families' expectation that there was an implied continuation of the program in the next district. So that's something that either should be discussed, disabused, or pursued, but to leave it out there to hang is something that I'd like to resolve one way or the other in the future.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah, and thank you for this. And related, we'll mix it up, continue on for fifth grade.
I can't say anything now because we need to see how whatever the budgetary impacts are. But that is not actually where the discussions were around programming. But I can't speak to whether that will continue or not right at this moment.
Sarah?
Yeah, a few months ago, maybe it was even January, I'd asked Shannon, who may not be in the call anymore, and that's fine, I would like to know what the marginal cost, that is the extra cost, if any, of having this Cominantes program. You know, extra over what the students would require if there were no Cominantes program. Again, just as more information, I think that would be good to have when we are reviewing it after the data folks get done with their report. I think it would be useful.
Okay. All right, I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
My understanding, Sarah, is that Shannon did say she tried to do that and found it just almost impossible to tease out that information. So perhaps
Either we have the same number of teachers and paras, or I mean, there's got to be a way to estimate it. We can't have no idea.
I think
So
how much it
we
costs.
started that work, and it may have, with all of the things that have come forth, it may have fallen off in my inbox. So I will check and see, because I know Shannon started the work. I know she did it. So Sarah, I apologize. I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, I think that came to me. And with all of the documents and requests, I may not have sent it forward. So I will look for it and I will send it to you.
That's fine. You no need to apologize. And I don't need the information before, you know, maybe in the fall, whenever we come back to this with the full analysis from UMass. And if it's, you know, if it's approximate, if it's, you know, a range somewhere like from X to Y, that's fine. That's fine.
other questions? Andrew?
Just to follow up on the mix it up aspect of this, if it is sort of seen as being connected, I'm just wondering if it, I guess, as in the future, if we're thinking about budget, if that could be factored in, because I just think that that was such a great pivot and incredibly helpful for a lot of families.
Thank you. I'll make that note.
Obviously, the implementation of the 90-10 model is something that will be also important to identify, because that started, I don't even remember, that might have been this year or the year before. But this is the third year of the 90-10. Okay. So that'll be, you know, a change to the model. That'll be important to understand whether or not that has hopefully a positive outcome in terms of the numbers you folks will be looking at. Okay, I need to go back to the Wildwood rescind vote because we need to hold on to it through the summer. So we will be running summer programs in the summer. So, yes, so let's find the actual motion. Sarah, did you read it? Because it's somewhere here.
No, I just,
Yeah.
out of my head,
Yeah.
I moved to relinquish the Wildwood Elementary School property as of July 1st, but
So,
oops, I meant, what did I
Okay.
mean? I meant,
well, let's
September?
find the motion, but first we have to reconsider it because, and this is where there's a reconsider and there's a rescind, and I don't know the difference between the two.
I think we can just decide to fix it.
Bring a question again, reconsider, rescind. What do you think, Sarah?
I think that this committee can decide would like to proceed.
Okay, so let us reconsider the Wildwood motion with the new information before us. And I move that we reconsider the Wildwood vote. Rescind vote. Second, all in, discussion? All in favor? Okay, let's go back to that now.
Can I ask, do we, I don't know if it was Dr. Z or who maybe texted you, but. or
Dr.
you
Z.
just, yes, what is the appropriate date? Is it the first day of school or?
I asked if it was September 1st and I got a yes,
Yes.
but yes, okay. So we moved to rescind, we agreed to rescind. Did we actually rescind it?
I thought you said reconsider.
Reconsider, I don't know. Okay. So now I move to relinquish Wildwood Elementary School effective September 1st of 2026.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Okay. And now back to the iReady overview and update, please. Not back to, going to.
Hello again. So if you take a look, there, again, because you have all the documents, there's no need to really go through the presentation. So I just wanted to point out at the very beginning of the short presentation, you'll see the difference in language so that we can talk about the same thing. So when you say iReady, I am interpreting that as the digital components. And when you talk magnetic literacy or Ready Classroom Math, you mean the curriculum or the curricular components. I think that's probably where we can start, and then we can answer questions around it. I just wanted to make sure that we were talking the same language, because if I say no and you're thinking I mean something different, it can make for confusion.
Okay. I'm going to go down the line. Sarah?
So I must have been listening to school committee meetings when this was adopted. I think I remember, and maybe you've read the documentation, that this one reason this curriculum and all its pieces was adopted was that it was available also in Spanish, and it had lots of cultural touch points throughout it, and that the diagnostic, how useful the diagnostic tool would be to really pinpointing the student, the gaps in their learning or understanding, enable focused instruction. So do you think I'm right in that, as in like we're revisiting why Caminantes was begun? Do you think I'm right in my memory of why Ready Classroom Math and iReady was adopted?
Yes, so back in 2019, the Amherst district was, I think it's probably was the kickoff to some equity work that was happening in the district prior to COVID. And one of those pieces was looking at equity around curricular pieces and making sure students could see themselves in the curriculum. And so, so began the review of curriculum and a lot of piloting. And so, I don't know exactly if at COVID it stopped or paused, but most likely it did, because now we're going to next year be in the 5th year of it, which is the year of the review of the curriculum. But it did start in terms of our district collecting, actually choosing this was around some equity work. It was around the fact that the curriculum was available in both Spanish and English. It had a diagnostic which allowed for teachers to have some real in-time access to data around student needs. And it also supported administrators, building level leaders, to be able to see exactly where students are and see what's happening in the classroom. Most times, in the South, we talk about it as the teacher lottery. You get the teacher lottery, and then you have a teacher that's doing all the things. And it shouldn't be a teacher lottery. It shouldn't be your zip code. Having a curriculum that is not that is consistent and coherent allows for each classroom to make sure that all students are getting access to grade level materials in the same way, regardless of which teacher you have. Now, teachers themselves are where you get the, what makes it interesting and enlivening, and also creative, because teachers are the, professional experts around their classroom, their kids. They're able to really put a spin on it for what their kids are doing, what their kids' interests are, those kinds of things.
Laura Jane.
I bet you can guess what my question is going to be.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you want to guess? Or you want me to just ask?
No, go ahead.
So I know, I understand the distinction between the iReady assessment tool, but I will say that even though you're saying they're ready math books, they do say iReady on those books. Like the textbooks say iReady on them. So I think that's where my confusion has come from. So I would love a cost breakdown, and that felt like a thing that was missing from this this document was just like, it looked like a 3% gain in student achievement. And I would love to understand what the cost is in each of those areas, right? And I thought I heard from somewhere, I heard that maybe we were getting the assessment piece free. I don't know if that's accurate or not, like the testing, and maybe that's only in the middle school and high school and not in the elementary. I don't know. I would just love to, long way to say, please break down these costs for us so we understand what we're looking at.
I believe that we had already provided the cost breakdown in the budgetary discussions earlier, like months ago. So it should be available to school committee, because we were asked during the budgetary discussion to break down the ideal cost of it. And I think, Tanya, we had submitted like a whole layout of how much is paid via, by us, including some of this is through a grant and a consortium. So the school committee should have access to that.
Yes, and I did not bring that tonight, but I will find it for you and get it back to, if you don't have it in your inbox, I'll work with Shannon to resend that to you. But initially, when the grant, when iReady curriculum materials, when you look at the book, it was the colloquial name, kind of that's what everybody called it, and that's the way it's branded, but it's Ready Classroom Math and Magnetic Literacy. So for some of it in the initial starts were grant paid. It was a DESE grant that was paid. One of the things that just for everybody's information is we are allowed to compete for grants through DESE if we have high quality instructional materials. If we no longer have high quality instructional materials, we are not eligible for grants under curricular grants under DESE's. I think it was the Impact or Implement Massachusetts was the what DESE worked on in I want to say it was 2022, 2021. But that's one of the reasons, because Amherst was ahead of the curve to go to a curriculum that was designated high quality. But I will work with Shannon to get that breakdown back to you again, so you can have it to see. You'll see that some years are grant funded, so the district did not pay for like out of pocket for anything. And then, yes, there are things that because we were already working with them, we were allowed to pilot certain pieces of the curriculum for free.
I'm just doing a follow-up question.
I'll go to you
No.
next.
Thank you. That's helpful. And I'm sorry that I haven't found that document. I don't know why. I don't know where it is. I apologize.
No problem.
I guess the question is, when you say we're not eligible for grants unless we have high quality instruction, the grants are for high quality, like, what are the grants for if not, like, is it a circular thing? Like, if we use iReady, we're eligible for grants to pay for iReady? Or is it we're eligible for like grants that can fund?
I think
Classroom
she said high
materials, I don't know,
quality instructional materials. So it's
Right.
HQIM.
Yeah, so not necessarily iReady are the curriculum that we're using now, but you have to be using a high quality instructional material curricular resource or program, core curriculum, in order to qualify. So it's similar back in 2021, the state asked us, DESE asked us to upload to the curriculum report where they started, what curriculum you were using across all districts. So there's like a curricular website that houses every district in Massachusetts, what curriculum they're using. And so we were required to upload what we're using. And so it could be teacher created, it could be a particular program. But we're moving to now is no matter what you have, whether it is something you do in-house, something district level, you still have to ensure that it meets what is defined as high quality instructional materials. And I put links in the short presentation for you so you can go to those pages to look at what that actually means. So it's not specifically for the curriculum we chose. It's just that back in 2021, when we chose it, out of all of the curriculum pieces that they were looking at, and they took, I think there were a group of maybe 7 that got whittled down to 5, that then got whittled down to 3. But out of those, from that big group that did the review, this was the one that was chosen. And so that's how we get to year 5 next year. And that's where the review happens during the 5th year of the cycle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, I'm going to go to Bridget and then I'll go back to you.
So thank you for putting the presentation together and bringing the materials. Like Sarah, I think we have, kids the same age. So we remember when the iReady curriculum presentations came forward. And I will say one of the things that was appreciated about them was the access because they were bilingual, right? And that they can even be printed in other languages. And so ELL teachers, et cetera, can use those materials. But I think that what's interesting is since 2019, that there's been independent research that's come out, and the meta-analysis on equity from an equity lens don't show gains. They show the students really being flat. So I'm concerned about that piece when it comes to ready math, particularly. I understand the gains are better in magnetic literacy. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about ready math specifically. When it comes to iReady itself, that's the assessments. It sounds like the assessments are almost all screen based, but there may be one assessment a week or, a certain amount of time a week. I think someone said something like 30 minutes. And then the Ready program itself, where I've seen it used, it's usually hybrid, like there's some worksheets, there's printable stuff, and then there's some computer time. But one of the things that I've heard from educators and that I hear a lot is that it's very worksheet heavy. And as the mom of someone who would just as soon make a paper airplane out of a worksheet than do the worksheet, and someone who just thrived completely on project-based learning, I wonder how much of the day is spent on this and how this ties into our district goals to have project-based learning at the floor. I think those are my main points. I'm glad it's time for a curricular review.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I would say is that as we look at the implementation process across classrooms and across schools, that's one place where the review is going to be very helpful to see how it's being used, because there are questions around screen time. But the wonderful thing about the program is principals are able to see the data in real time about how much time a student is using it. And there are times, I know from my previous district as well, where kids will they like the game portions of it, so they'll use it on the weekends. And so it's like, hold on, let's see which part of this are they actually using. But no, that's an excellent point in terms of how do we ensure that there is coherence across all 3 schools, that we're using it effectively and also targeted. It's not just put a kid on a screen and then go. It is targeted around what time is being spent. And I look forward to being able to share the review with you once we finish it in year 5.
Just a quick follow-up. I just say
Sure.
with the review, I mean, I think that our district-specific data will be interesting, particularly broken down by the subgroups. But I think it's also important to look at okay, and comparatively, What did the meta-analysis show? What did the non-vendor sponsored research studies show, the independent ones, on the outcome of Ready Math versus, say, another program like Eureka, which has better equity outcomes? Because that's a big issue for our district.
Yes, I'll make sure we include that as the group gets back together for the 5-year review.
Thanks, Tanya. You're
You're
great.
welcome.
Sarah, Sarah.
So 2 questions. I'm looking in your presentation, page 2 with the green, shades of green and yellow and red and pink. The 3 years tracking a cohort from 3rd to 4th to 5th grade. And so 2 questions are, do you know how stable the cohort is over time? Is it the exact same students are there in year 1 as in year 3? And if there's coming and going, do you pull those results out so that you really are looking at progress among a defined group of students?
So for a quick analysis, no, it's just cohort data as we move them. So not really digging in to see which students move, that type of thing. But that's what will happen in year 5, because you do, just to your point of being very specific to make sure that the kids that are cohorted from year 1 to 2, you have that information. But right now, it's just trying to track the group across the system.
Thank you.
You're
The other
welcome.
question is, of course, I'm looking at the red and the pink. Those kids who are 2 and 3 years below grade level. And again, I wonder, and maybe you can't say now, are those the same kids in year 1, in year 2, in year 3? And they must be progressing a grade, but they're still 2 or 3 years behind all the time. And that's a really urgent problem. So this goes beyond the math curriculum, perhaps, into the larger issue that we talk about all the time. What do those kids need? And can we give it to them or get it for them to help them improve their command of math?
No, and that's very important. One of the things Dr. Z initiated when she came was the data chats that administrators and their teams have with her and the central office team. So going through that data, that's where we're able to really dig into that. So principals looking at their groups, looking at their data, our principals are really excellent at it. Stephanie Joyce, who is in the central office, who works with the elementary K-6 to look at the curriculum and implementation. She works with them on data cycles, and that's where that information and the digging down to see, drilling down and having actual data to be able to look in real time, not wait for MCAS, a year later to say, oh, well, there was the problem, but to really be able to be responsive. And that's where the work has to happen, to see, as we look at the data, how are we responding to it?
Well, for example, is this I'm not sure if this is what results exactly these are displaying, if it's the diagnostic, like, are those kids in the red or in the pink identified as needing math intervention or services, or that would already have been detected? Or like, what do we do? What are the teachers doing? If you can answer.
Okay. The response to that is, what would hopefully be happening is that as the teachers are looking at their diagnostic information, or they're looking at their data from the lessons that they're teaching, going through and working, if it is intervention, if it's tier 2 intervention, or if it's tier 1 instruction that maybe needs to be a reteach. Those are the things that we're going to take a look to see, how is it really being responded to in real time.
I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention back in 2019, apparently, because I don't remember the discussion. But I have been paying attention of late. And, one of the concerns that parents bring forward are the amount of screen time, the proprietary nature of the curriculum in that there is facial recognition associated with it. Those are the questions that have come up, as well as the requirement that students use email accounts. So I don't know if any of those are accurate, but those are things that have cycled through in and out of my community participation over the last 3 or 4 months. Can you speak to any of those?
I will say I've not heard any of that,
Okay.
but I will definitely take a
Okay.
look. But
I've heard the screen time discussion.
no, I'm talking about
I
facial
know, I've heard
recognition.
the screen, out of all of that, I've heard the screen time
Yeah.
discussion.
Yes.
And so we've had the discussion around implementation versus, integration and what that looks like. And our discussion on what fidelity to a program may be for us to see the gains, but we also have to take into account the social, emotional, and developmental needs of students. I have not heard anything about facial recognition. I will say that many of our programs, and it's not very far-fetched for districts to have single sign-on as single sign-ons. And so, for example, we have you have access, as you have our ARP's email address. You have access through Clever to like Canva. You have access through Clever to different, like, I would say, software or programming that most individuals have that come within our district licensure. Very similarly, it's the same thing here. Every child that comes into our system is assigned not just an email, possibly. I'm not sure if the elementary students have email, probably 5th or 6th grade, but they may have it so that we're not using their student ID numbers. In my previous district, we had at one point we had student name and ID, but that's identifiers, right? So at least using the email address, which then allows them to sign on through the single sign-on options of Clever, is how they would be able to sign on.
So in the review of the curriculum, I would hope that there's a component of listening sessions or surveys or whatever feedback you can get from the folks who implement it, but also from the families. I'm not sure any of these issues is unique to this platform, but there are concerns that I think bear addressing, or at least discussing.
Yes, and I should clarify. Yes, I've heard of screen time issues, that it was the facial recognition that was
Yeah,
stunning me.
I got that. Yeah, yeah, but who knows?
But yes, there are scheduled listening sessions, or will be scheduled listening sessions and family surveys that go out. I think on the bottom of the information, it shares a little bit about what the 5-year review happens. It'll look similar to, and I know you don't remember, you said you don't remember that, but it'll look similar to what you all as a district did back in 2019, where it's a more robust review. Getting teacher feedback, getting student feedback, student surveys are also a part of it, because you're looking at the whole program. So it's when you think, well, if you've been through a curriculum review, it's the entire thing that you look at, not just the landscape around whether it is improving scores, but also what's the experience like for teachers, what's the experience like for kids,
Great,
all of those things.
thank you. Was it Sarah?
You're welcome.
Sarah?
Yeah, I just want to point out that, at least based on my memory of my child's experience, they're using Chromebooks for a lot of different purposes during the school day. So it's not just math. I mean, maybe there's some larger concern about reliance on technology, but I don't think that it's like only math that they're having to sign in for. I mean, they're writing, they're reading, they're doing all kinds of things, and it's within their school account somehow.
I would say, Sarah, you're correct. In terms of the concern about screen time, it varies. Some individuals have come to us around the integration of the curriculum materials. other individuals have contacted us just about screen time period, right, across the board. And I believe that's something I really read its wonderfully digital self, especially after COVID, because everything was online, everything was through, Google Classroom, we chat, we do everything that, like, we've really shifted into the technological and digital era. We've leaned in, we were pushed in, but now we've leaned in. And so not only are we looking at it for these curriculum materials, but we're looking at it, like I said, in terms of their development and their age and what should be happening. I have to give it to our elementary principals and teachers, even when they have their individual, the personalized time, a lot of it isn't solely on devices in the classroom. They take children out, they work with them in small groups. I've seen where teachers have like gone back to like making index cards and support materials. So we I know there's a lot of concern, but then there's different ways of implementing, and we have some dynamic teachers and leaders in the buildings that are doing their best to make sure that instruction is still developmentally appropriate.
And Sarah, you're spot on. There was an issue at a school about screen time from a parent. And when we dug into it and started looking at the child's time, it wasn't showing up that the child was on the screen the whole time. And then we found out it was the child was using the screen in tech class. So their tech class, they were on the computer. And that's where mom's like, oh, okay, never mind. Because that's what they do, use the device in tech class as well.
Thank you for that. I have an anecdote to share just because my two older kids grew up in an era where they didn't have Chromebooks, but just from a family point of view, we learned the hard way that any screen time needed to be followed by a whole body movement. Otherwise, things didn't go well in our household. So I don't know how their experiences would be affected in today's world, but I do have very strong experiences with the limitations of the keyboard and that very dedicated environment to learning.
And we're just talking about what they do in school. We won't forget the little screens that most of them have in their pockets around the cell phone, and some of the cell phone laws that were implemented that'll be started. So yes, I think this is a larger discussion around not just curricular choices, but choices in general. But I look forward to this will be my first time doing the full curriculum review with our district, but I look forward to digging into it. And for those of you that weren't here, like I wasn't when they did the first one, it might be a great time to kind of engage and lean into that, just to see what the whole thing is about. That way you can see all the parts of it.
So it's 10 o'clock. I think this is a good time to move on. Thank you both. Thank you for both those presentations. It's a nice way to end.
Thank you all.
I guess we're not ending. It's a nice way to spend a June evening thinking about these important issues and hearing the work that's being done. So, community, I'm sorry, F. So student safety and well-being, we have an update on the motions and some points that are under review as well, completion and in progress. So can we run through them, please?
Sure, we attached the, as a district, we updated our update that we presented the last time. We walk through and we have some things that are in progress. We have some questions, well, not questions, we have what's under review there because there's some clarity that we need to make sure that we have we're clear on, and then we just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of where we're moving. There is, like I said, there is an impact to this. We heard the public comment, but we want to make sure that we walk through. I think one of the things that I wanted to point out, because I heard the comment around not just looking at legal, one of the key things that gets us into a series of issues is not understanding the full law. and also not understanding what are options available to us that would meet the regulations and requirements. And so the training agenda, which the district leadership and different individuals attended, was actually to show that we started moving in the direction of trying to identify not just some alternatives, but what are other uh, other alternatives that would be in compliance. What are other districts doing? What are some nuances of the law and implementation that we need to take into consideration? We know that Massachusetts in the next 3 years is really trying to move into like limited to no restraints or seclusions. And that's a timely process. Now, some districts are doing this well, other districts are not. But we wanted to have the opportunity to take advantage of all possible trainings. And one of the key parts you'll notice is that there was a section specifically, an hour specifically dedicated to alternatives to timeout and seclusion and, looking at strategies for reducing and eliminating their use. So we really wanted to show that we're working from a not just compliance standpoint, but compliance with the school committee, but compliance with the regulation and the law as well. There is some disconnect in some of my other work with JKAA where there seems to have been in 2022, I believe, there was a actual policy that was passed, but it was never posted on board docs. And so this is causing some disconnect in terms of the transition, and what was in place. I think there was a move, but we were actually possibly already compliant. And then the school committee has actually, in some of their actions, because they have kind of, and I say, guys know I'm direct, and I will not apologize for it, but if it hurts your feelings, let me know. There is some barriers or stop gaps in terms of execution that the school committee put in place with their directives. Specifically where it talks about like the trainings and other areas. Because if you're asking us to bring forward training materials for someone that we're in conversation with, then to present to the school committee, and I believe that was when I looked, that was one of my notes when I watched the discussion. You are also opening up the district to a pricier personalized option. You are also asking us to ask individuals to basically give us their training materials without really committing to training. So there's some things, and then not to mention, our budget was just cut somewhere a little while ago. So, I guess I just wanted to present where we were, and if there were any questions. In regards to the investigation, we're awaiting the final report from the investigator. And that's an update.
Say that last part again, please.
In regards to the investigation, because I know that's something that is consistently comes up, we're awaiting the final report from the investigator.
When, is there a time you expect that by?
I'm not sure. We had expected it before, but they did go away. They came back, and I think there were some additional interviews that were being done. So I will have our team circle back and follow up.
If there's part of that report that can be shared with the committee, I mean, it's always an issue of personnel versus programmatic approaches. That would be helpful for us to learn about. I
Most
don't know.
definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of the under review, new committee action, okay, motion number 4. Under review, new committee request and action needed. Can you speak to that part, please?
So it's a new committee request, which means that it's something that you guys requested that evening. And there are specific actions that we would have to we need to put in place. But one of the things is that if you read the motion, it says the ASC, Amherst School Committee, direct the superintendent communicate, provide this committee with regular updates an investigation and regular meeting until its conclusion. So I just did that.
Okay, I didn't understand what the entry was. I thought there was a refining communication part of that.
No.
When we had done agenda planning, there was, when we had discussed going through this, there was a refining communication part of some or all of the directives, or do you remember that conversation?
Sure. I think that as a team, we have some questions around execution and implementation. And so I'll ask the team to present their comments. So Tanya and Joanne, if you want to jump in, and then because we had a team discussion on this around what are our major concerns with implementation on all of these directives. I think one of the most major concerns there are is that some of these contradict, but also remain keeping us within legal complete legal compliance, right? So Joanne or Tanya, you want to start off?
Tanya, would you like to, or I can?
You can go ahead and start.
Yeah, I think what we need is clarification on motion number 1, item B. There's language around the motion around a certain time frame and documentation that is not the same as reflected in policy JKAA. So we need an understanding relative to that. I think one of the pieces, and I appreciate the commentary earlier in public comment from CPAC, one of the pieces that I had shared in policy subcommittee as well was that the number of elements around training, highly valued, important training, but was a time factor relative to how to schedule and get all of this meaningful training in place. And so we were able to focus on the CPNS, the Collaborative Proactive Solutions aspect, and map that out. Thank you to Dr. Herman and to Tanya around doing that. But you can see our rough estimate right now is about 10,000, a little over 10,000, and that number can definitely fluctuate. What we also have to be thinking about is just keeping in mind what we can ask educators to do outside of their regular work hours. And the baseline training from Dr. Green is 12 hours or 11 and a half, almost 12 hours. And so those don't exist during the school day or in a coordinated way. So we are asking staff to volunteer and be compensated at the PD rate this summer. So that's a substantive commitment there. The other piece I wanted to share with respect to UCARO, which is something that CPAC has put forward as a replacement for safety care, much as we do with other things, we need to do actually some investigation and research into it. It is actually not a program that's being implemented right now. Like the trainings aren't local. You have to travel to get to the trainings and all the costs associated with flight and hotels. And so, what our anticipation is before we would go for a wholesale replacement is to send a couple of staff to go for the training to bring back what they learn so that then we could look forward to where would we want to go with this, and is it a case where we would phase out safety care and then phase in UCARU. I think there's a lot of powerful information and content from what I've seen on the website, but unfortunately, documents or resources don't constitute a comprehensive training. And so I wanted to put that forward to the group as well. And then I also want to acknowledge, again, under Dr. Herman and under Tanya's guidance, there has been deliberate, purposeful conversation about how to map other aspects, not diminish, but also how to map them in the MTSS framework, which is true for a lot of other work that's happening. So really the vision is how do you connect the dots so that yes, we accomplish this critical training and information while contextualizing it to the other initiatives and work happening, including around PBIS or other aspects. So I wanted to put that out there. And then I just think the other thing I wanted to, let me just see. Oh, the other piece too is in conversation with, again, with Tanya, Dr. Herman, is how do we utilize the available professional development time? We do have limitations, and so we have our November date. So our intent is to use that for doing work with CPNS and more on neurodiverse affirming. I think it's in here where it talks about how we're going to be adding modules and doing other work. We just, the very real part is we have to find the time, and we don't want to just put information out for the sake of putting it out. We want it meaningful and connected, and hopefully, I think it's in Dr. Herman's vision for convocation, how to set the tone for the school year and this critical work moving forward.
Nice. Laura Jane.
Thank you, Joanne. How many, where are you with the process of getting volunteers to participate, and how many people do you anticipate participating over the summer?
Quick question, can you clarify what you mean by volunteers? And the reason why I'm asking that, because the motion doesn't give us the option for individuals to volunteer. It's actually for our staff to be trained.
I know, but Joanne said volunteers, so that's what I was responding to.
So just for clarification to address that, Laura, is that we put out a sign up that is also, I need to work with others to enroll people in and to activate the materials. You only get 30 days to review it. There's different stipulations that come from Dr. Green and his team, but in very short order right now, we have, I'm just trying to do quick math, not my jam all the time. Right now, we have at least 20 people signed up, and that was from a release in very short order earlier today. We anticipate others, certainly the administrative team. I think, Dr. Herman, that's a part where you're talking about. And then in the summer, again, with the staff, this is part of the challenge. And we've been doing consultation with their representative bodies about how do we, so that's why I guess I used the word voluntary. There is only so much time we can find. But I think the response to me reflects a high investment in it. Given, I would say to you, this is a group that's representative not only of Amherst, but also of Region, because we know Region is going to be moving hopefully forward to come in with their policy. And so we're just trying to be really proactive and on top of it.
And just to clarify, volunteering to sign up, but being paid if it's outside of their work
Thank
hours.
you.
So I want to make sure everybody is clear on what we're saying there.
Thank you, Tanya. Sorry.
Yeah, that I understood that part. I just was.
No, that's just for the tape. I want to make sure everybody.
I wanted to make sure, because that's why I was quite concerned with the word voluntary, because we still have to compensate all of these individuals for their time. So there's still a budgetary impact.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So that helps me. So you put out a sign, just to make sure I understood. Sorry, it's my brain, it's mushy. You put out a sign up sheet. You got at least 20 people who were like actively interested in doing it sooner than later, sounds like. And they're coming from all over the district, not just the 3 elementary schools. Is that the thing? And so then the plan will be for the Amherst elementary schools to implement this during PD time, that is official PD time during November, but also to hopefully get some folks trained to train the trainer kind of thing. Is that the idea?
So we have very limited number of early release or even training days. And that's what Joanne was talking about in terms of identifying the time, which is critical, right? Because we do not have a lot of training days, district days versus, and all of the committees have committed to various trainings, right? So we're not just talking about this one. We're also talking about, there's a commitment to welcoming schools, which is 2 days this year, 2 days this year. There's commitments to, so we had a professional development conversation as a district team, trying to identify and kind of prioritize without prioritizing, but really honestly and truly, that's a very difficult conversation. And so that's why for us, it's like you see things that are under review or in progress. Not that we don't want to do it, but we have competing priorities all set forth by the same committees.
In terms of the financial part of it, there's a DESI grant to apply for in the fall. And we'd be happy to provide any kind of support that we can or take the lead on that, if that is at all helpful.
Thank you. We'll let you know.
Bridget?
Yeah, thank you. This is terrific update. You've accomplished a lot in a small amount of time. And it looks like you've got some really good plans for moving forward. I especially like starting out with the investment and the time for the CPS, because that's where I think the biggest impact points people saw were. So thanks for that. I think I don't know much about Ukuru, but CPAC is very enthusiastic about it. So I'm glad you're investigating it and looking into whether it would be a good replacement for safety care. The third thing I would say is I think that question of, yeah, how is this integrated into the way the school is functioning through TSS, through SEL? That's that's the right path and the right lens. And so I feel really optimistic about that. One small point, I would love if, Joanne, if you could just shoot me a quick email before tomorrow's meeting that shows me the exact language that differs between this motion and what's requested in JKAA, because I think we vote at the region on JKAA tomorrow. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at that agenda yet, but that was my understanding. And so that might be something we could clear up tomorrow.
Happy to do that. And the variation in language was around the motion to JKA. So I'm happy to do that. Bridget, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then just if the motion and JKA are incompatible, then we need to figure out how to resolve them, either the motion or the policy. And it might be the first instead of the second.
For tomorrow, we have some small changes to JKA coming before the committee anyway. And so if we were able to just make that match with what's in this motion, then this committee could pass the version that we pass tomorrow night, because we're already in session.
Okay.
So then everything would line up, and I think it would, just solve a little hiccup in the process.
Excellent. Other questions, comments? Okay. I move to adjourn. All in favor? 10:20, we are adjourned.